And we are live. Welcome to the Political Orphans. My name is Nico, and I am your in-house conservative. To my left, Rob Ambrose, our token lefty, and together we review what's in the news. Our goal is simple. We want to show you that it's possible for a lefty and a righty to not only get along, but if we don't get along, we're able to have a conversation like normal human beings. Because remember, common sense has no political affiliations. What's going on, man?
My friends, how's it going? How is it going? The world, the markets are melting down, but we're here. We got lung air in our lungs. We got the sunshine on our face. What else can we be worried about except for our retirement funds? But fuck it.
Great leadership.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Great leadership in Canada.
Good to see you, brother. How was your vacation?
Yeah.
You're in the mean streets of Maui, was it?
Well, I had to escape the mean streets of Hermosa Beach to go to Maui, and I really love going places where it's warm at night, so you can eat outdoors.
I like that too. I really like that.
Yeah, like California, like when the clouds are out, it is brick. It's desert weather out here, so all that glitters not gold.
Fucking river.
Maui's beautiful. Yeah.
Crimean fucking river. I'm in Canada right now, and it fucking snowed like a foot of snow over the past 2 days. So fuck you.
We still got snow.
And fuck Maui. Fuck you. Fuck California. Cry me a fucking river.
Gonna be one of those shows. Yeah.
Not even 2 minutes in.
I like that because even in Canada, even in the summer, it's still cold at night. But I like that. Like anytime I've gone down south on vacation, you go out at midnight and it's like you're in it's like you're in a sauna or something. I really like that.
Yeah, man. Nice warm atmosphere. You get your party on,
Lots of that.
Yeah, well, yeah, lots of pool time. I did 13-mile hikes. The last 4 miles was like uphill, 10,400 feet. So that was a little bit gnarly because my legs were like, all right, we need a minute because we haven't done this. But I was all right. Yeah,
Nice.
New York walking is my life. I'm from New York originally, so
that's right.
Didn't even drive.
So I figured, because I was wondering, like, we haven't seen you for a few days, and then Nico reminded me that you were gone. I don't know if you've been following, but obviously we've been covering a lot of the market stuff. And what's your, we're going to get into it, but what is that? How's that one feeling? Is it biting pretty deep or what?
I only feel it in the sense that I've never taken interpretive notice that every country was doing tariffs on us,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And that's one of the I'm always on this show, and you guys have this fantastic subject matter, and I always bring up these lurking variables, but that's something a lot of people never notice. I'm like, wait, are they tariffing us too? And everybody's like, yeah, they've always done that. So I'm like, so what's the problem?
Yeah,
and it really just shows my ignorance, right? I don't know the degree of tariffs and how does it affect us less or more, or is the USA going to have to pay now but in the long run, it makes the market price more competitive for United States, where other people, for me, the only thing I got to say about it is I'd rather pay a little extra if something's made in America than something being shipped off.
Yeah.
Let's take care of our own a little bit. We voted, the people voted for America first. Let's do that. We have money to take care of other countries, right? I mean, how much money? Not without getting into Ukraine, that could have ended homelessness. That could have wiped student debt clean. Socialist stuff.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, right.
I should have saved that post, but somebody said either way, you always end up paying more by buying from China because you're buying cheap shit. It might be less expensive right now, but how many TVs do you see still running 10 years from now? You don't.
Yep.
Yet I can see old school TVs in the fucking wood. Like they're surrounded by real wood. 50 years later, they still work. It's just the image sucks because they're 50 years old.
Yeah.
But they were, when I bought my last cottage, they came with appliances from before I was born, and I'm fucking 43 years old. They were yellow. They're not even white or black. No. They're like yellow. Yet, you know what? We bought a brand new one because I redid all the kitchen to make it look good. It was shit. A brand new one was shit compared to the old one. The old one was rusted a bit, but it still worked like A1. So at the end of the day, I try not to buy shit from China. I do. What I buy is normally I have less, but I pay more. I'll pay more for something that's quality that will last me 5, 10 years, 20 years, and I'm still able to resell it afterwards. So it might not be a bad thing because, man, I should have checked the numbers, but it was something stupid. The amount of debt that we carry as individuals because we buy too much shit, that might not be a bad thing. Like you look at the tariffs, that's not what the intents are. But if that changes the shopping habits or the spending habits of people, that is a win for me because goddamn, we're bad as a society. Like in North America, we're fucking terrible at not wasting our money.
Well,
I think. Sure.
Well, Nico, I think there's a billionaire class that was thinking in terms of not having to give out pensions, not having to give out medical care, and benefits that come with being with employing people in the United States. But the drawback, and I think you guys were getting to this, but allow me to start it. I think the drawback is if people are not employed here, we're not purchasing goods here. And if we're not purchasing goods here, that hurts them too. So, right, that like goods, services, houses, if you will, cars, leasing cars. We're not if we're purchasing that less, we're going to be 5 years away from the Hunger Games, where only the people that have generational wealth will survive. And that was one of my fears of Donald Trump being president. But at the same, I'm mixed because it couldn't stay the same.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's funny because we were talking about this yesterday, how, it's been the left that's been banging the alarm, we need to change, things need to change. And now that someone's doing change, they're like, oh, no, not like that. Yeah. And
not that type of change.
I think my general feeling is I don't clearly something had to change. The status quo was not sustainable. Debt levels are through the roof. American middle class has been completely hollowed out. There's very little manufacturing capacity. Would I have done things the same way if I was president? Probably not. That said, someone had to do something. And I think even if this is the wrong way to go, because at least it forces us to have the conversation. And even if this ends up being a massive failure, we're going to have to, there will have to then be some solution put into place. Essentially, the status quo is done. And I kind of got to respect the guy just for putting all his chips in the middle, because this is an all-in bet, right? Like, if this fails in the worst case scenario for Trump, there's probably not a whole lot coming back for him. I'm talking worst case scenario. There's also lots of other scenarios other than a pure win. It could be sort of hit or miss, blah, blah, blah. But, in a lot of ways, there wasn't really a lot of incentive for him to go this hard this early. He could have just sat on his haunches for, a year or two and done some stuff, but he clearly had a plan. He clearly is executing on this plan. And you got to respect someone willing to put all their chips in the middle, even if you don't necessarily agree with. I think the left doesn't. I think they're just immediately gonna question his motives. I believe that Donald Trump genuinely thinks he's doing something good for America, and we're gonna have to see what it is. But I kind of respect that he's making a move, because people have been talking about it for decades, and nobody has had the balls to sort of do this kind of thing. So it's changing.
Nico,
it's changing the. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Nico. Do you agree that all the moves he's making is not dominated and controlled by his party? Like right now, everything that our guy Rob said about the left, like, I don't know what he's doing. Right now, you got Republicans that are like, hey, Donald, someone has a clue what the hell you're doing, but it ain't me. You want to let us in on it? And that's the only thing. I mean, if I can respect only one thing about the guy, there's a dynamic that he had an agenda, right? Thanos promised to get the 6 stones and snap his finger and eliminate, half of life. And I really, I mean, on my worst day, I can respect that. If your own party is upset with what you're doing, maybe there's something in there you're doing right, because we've never gotten that from our previous president. Has the Democratic Party ever complained about how Joe Biden, anything that he signed or anything that he opposed or whatever, that he was awake enough or alive enough to oppose, right? Never once in 4 years has his own party said Biden's wrong on this one. They just had they decided they wanted to become establishment first. I'm not talking about Democrat first, because we're both de facto.
Yep.
I'm a de facto Democrat, but we both know that they weren't party first. They were party
That's right.
establishment first. And I'd like to land by saying I think at least Trump has done things where like evangelicals are like, oh, what are you doing? The billionaire class is like, what are you doing? Yeah, I just, some of the people he selected, like Hegseth, man, that's you guys complain
That
about
was bad.
DUIs, man. That's a DUI, man. That dude's gotta go, man. He gotta go. That's a DUI.
I don't like Hegseth either.
At the end of the day, I think Trump is showing that there's a lot more in common behind the scene between the Democrats and the Republicans.
Yep.
By the way they're responding right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm looking at the way Republicans, I don't know if you saw the video I showed on Monday, but the guy had a great explanation as to why, in his opinion, Trump is using the tariffs, and it's brilliant. If that's what Trump is doing, it could be seen as the best president of all time. Like, it is brilliant what he's doing. But at the same time, Warren Buffett also said last week that the job of a president is to be a teacher, is to inform its people, to let them know why he's doing certain things. You might not agree with it, but here's why I'm doing it. Here's the outcome I'm looking for. But at the same time, is it possible right now because he's doing geopolitics on a world level, right? So he can't reveal his cards. So that's why you see, in my opinion, you see a lot of people are questioning what he's doing. But at the same time, man, you look at the numbers. The people were complaining, oh, it's going to be Black Monday 2.0. Not even fucking close.
No.
The market pretty much closed up on Monday than they were on Friday. So people don't have anything to complain about except that they don't like the guy. This is what it seems, because let's be honest here. If Obama had the balls to do that, if Biden had the balls to do what he's doing right now, yet both of them have spoken about this in the past. If they had the balls to say that, I guarantee you the left would be, you know what? Let's give him a chance. He must know what he's doing. Like, we voted for this guy. But this is the part that I don't like, is that is people are not giving him the time of day. Like, give him a minute, give him a week, give him 2 weeks to see what happens. Because right now, if you have 70 people 70 different countries that already contacted him to say, we're ready to make a deal with you, he won. He fucking won. Because people did not realize, as you mentioned at the beginning, that the US have had tariffs on their goods for years. It's just they don't talk about it because most of the stuff, the US doesn't produce that much compared to what it buys. So most people are not aware, right? People care about the goods they're coming in because it's directly impacting our wallets. But the average, as per the other video, was 7.5, somewhere between 5 and 10% of American goods everywhere have at least a 7.5 tariff on it. So that's not small. Like, that is your competitive edge. Like, that for most products, that's your fucking profit. It's fucking gone just by that. So at the end of the day, what he's doing, he's just doing something that nobody else has had the balls to do. Love him or hate him, he's fucking playing the game, and he's basically, oh, you're not happy with this? Well, fuck you. I'm not here to please the world. He's here to please the US. And if he feels that the US has been taken advantage of for decades, which he was saying that on Oprah 20 years ago, if you're pissing off the rest of the world, you're doing something right. Because if you've been taken advantage, if somebody's been anally raping me for years and I say stop and he doesn't like it, guess what?
But you'd never say stop. Keep going. Why'd you stop?
Pull up my hair, please.
Yeah.
Pull up.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think with something you just said, that I think he's pissing off a lot of the people that I think you want to see pissed off. You know, a lot of this is like, you know, the 1% class, the elites, and, you know, not to go make it all about like class war or whatnot, but like in a lot of ways, what they're, you know, if they're these are the people that primarily benefited from this deindustrialization, this offshoring to China over the last 30 years. So if they're upset, you know, he might be somewhere on the right track.
That's exactly how I
Cheryl,
see it too.
yeah. Cheryl says, "Hi, Rob, Nico, and Jason. Cheryl, good to see
What's
you.
going
Thanks for
on?
coming back. Prairie,
Thanks for
of course.
changing your name, keeping it to Cheryl, so we
Yeah,
know who you are.
Prairie, Prairie, good to
I,
see you.
I would also suggest that when he was in the Republican primary in 2016, he kept repeating like every country's taking advantage of us. Aren't we tired of playing the world's dupe? And there were some people didn't know what he was talking about. And as you saw him his first 4 years, we kind of understood that like, wow, wait, we're paying for this. So take that and put that on steroids or performance enhancing drugs. And that's what we've seen the first 3 months, right? And I know Nico is saying you got to give this guy a little bit of time, and the problem was they wouldn't give him time. So before he even swore in, they were criticizing his policies, and he didn't even do anything yet. So I was like, man, imagine if all this criticism happened when he came in. Imagine what it's going to be like 2 weeks after that. And then we fast forward to 2 weeks after that. It was like this. Since he's been in, it's been like this heightened temperature for everything. And some of it he's wrong, but some of it I'm like, we haven't even got to the physical. Like our physical budget is September every year. We haven't even gotten to that. So I'm at least decent enough to say give the guy till September, where the physical budget happens, and everybody's like, oh, you're a Trump bro, you're giving him more credit than he deserves. I'm like, the guy just got his, he didn't even move Melania didn't even move in the furniture yet. Let's chill.
A lot of the a lot of what he's doing now doesn't really slot neatly into the left-right paradigm, but if you had to pick, it's much more of a left-wing policy, right? It's more pro-worker, whereas it goes against sort of core conservative free market values. So it really is, I think a lot of killing the messenger on the left. And of course, we all knew that was going to happen, right? But like I said, I just think there's a lot of value in somebody just doing something, because politicians have been talking about this exact problem for decades. And somebody's got to do something. And even if you don't like the guy who's doing it, like there's value in that, even if it ends up being an epic failure, because it forces us to say, okay, well now what do we do? Because we can't go back to the status quo, because that's wiped out.
Like Roe v. Wade.
Exactly.
When I got past, they're like, okay, what do we do here? And then the states took over, right? And some of the states are ballot initiative states, and they were able to codify it through the people. They got rid of the governor, the middleman, and California's a ballot initiative state, Missouri's a ballot initiative state. Do you know what that is? Do you guys know what that is? I know you guys are Canadians. So ballot initiative is when they introduce when someone's running for office. They have a legislation and laws they want passed, and instead of Congress voting, they let the people of the state, because it's a state issue, they let the people vote. So if codifying abortion is on a ballot initiative, you can vote yes or no, and if it passes 60% or more, like Florida got to 59%, that was pretty cool. So if a state feels a certain way about that, Trump, in some maybe unwittingly or not, what he's done was made a genius move to allow the American people to decide, wow, well, there's a concept, Again, something else I have to respect.
It was brilliant.
It
was brilliant. Joe v. Wade. However you feel about abortion, and obviously we're completely different on this. I love the fact that he put it on the state. You don't want to live in a state where abortion's legal, find one that isn't. And I can name you some right now that it isn't. And I love that. Like, this is what the States is all about, if you ask me. You have the choice to live in so many different places. If you can choose, I like the ballot initiatives. I love it. Let the people choose. And if you're not happy, move somewhere else.
States should have that.
But in Canada, we don't have that at all.
No, we don't.
We're fucked. Like I'm like, no, but at least you have states. If I was an American, I would live in a state where abortion's not legal, or there would be ballot initiatives, right? Because that's my choice. There's 50 states. I can choose one. I can choose wherever the fuck I want to live as an American. But at the same time, we don't have that in Canada at all. Like, we're so screwed by the federal government. We don't have a lot of power on the provincial level when it comes to those types of things. And, if a Carney is elected, I'm moving out and I'm not coming back. Because it's not like as much as you can hate Trump, there's so much power on your state level that you can literally move to a state that you like,
Almost like a
you're not
different
going to be
country.
you're not going to be that much affected by what Trump is doing at the top. This is what the beauty is of the state. In Canada, though, fuck, everything comes. We
Yeah,
are really under the
top
pressure of
down.
the federal government. Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. We don't have a lot of power.
Yeah, no, that's right. And actually, Roe v. Wade's, it's a perfect example of just the Democratic Party, how sort of little regard they really have for their voters, right? They had plenty of opportunity, especially during Obama's presidency, when they could have brought it up and codified it into law, but they didn't want to do that, right? They loved having it constantly dangled over the head. Got to vote for us, or Republicans will take it away. And I just feel like it's just such a cynical way to do politics. And now, now they're mad at the Republicans for taking it away in some states, when Republicans are just doing the things they said they were always going to do. If you're a Democrat and you're upset about that, blame your party, blame the DNC, blame Obama for not pushing that through.
Well, bringing people up to speed, because we know, but our audience might not know, what Rob is talking about was when Obama got elected in 2009, he had two opportunities to codify abortion. He had the votes. He had 58 Democrat and 2 independents and the independents were like Bernie and someone else, so they leaned left. Yep. And in July 2009 and September 2009, they had two opportunities to bring it on the floor and codify abortion where no SCOTUS can touch it, and they didn't do it. And I'd also like to remind, and this is weird because I'm lefty, but I have to be real here. I also like to remind that Trump nominated judges, but you can't confirm the judges. The Senate has to confirm the judges. So the deciding vote for Judge, he starts with a C, but he's a pro-lifer. Yeah, Supreme Court. I forgot his name. Kavanaugh.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Kavanaugh. The deciding vote to confirm Kavanaugh was Senator Manchin, who's a Democrat.
Manchin, yeah.
So there are blockades for like, you can't just let Thanos snap his finger and eliminate half the population, but there are blockades, and the Democrats made sure that the door was wide open for this, right? And Democrats were devastated, right? We were like, we never thought in our lifetimes we would see this, blah, blah, blah. And we were upset at Republicans because we knew deep down in closed doors, this is not something that concerned the wealthy. If wealthy people want an abortion, they'll get it. Yeah, it's legal. They don't care if it's legal. I mean, let's be real. Same thing with guns, right? Like, people are like, no one should have a gun or this or that. But the Democrats, you know what? Their Secret Service their security has guns. They get to be armed. So this is and I don't mean to be boring and make this an up-down thing instead of a left-right thing, because a left-right thing is so much more fun to talk about. But the deeper you look, the more you're like, man, all of these fuckers they're all in it together, Do
what we say, not what we do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, rules for thee, but not for me, kind of thing. And I think a lot of people are really sick about that. You see that in the climate change people, right? Who are wagging their finger at us, telling us to eat insects. Meanwhile, they're flying all over the world in their private jets to the climate change
and yachts. By the way, how about
I posted about that on Mark Carney's page this week, where he posted a picture of the Boeing that he uses, saying, oh, he's going to go there and there and there I'm going to go to BC to speak to the people. I'm like, wow, that's pretty ironic coming from a climate change guy that you're using a private plane to go there. Yep. You should see his people are defending him. They're making, the dumbest of excuses. I'd much rather see him do that because it's more security for him. I'm like, oh, bitch, please. You can't explain it. When you have the top telling you to do something and they don't do it, COVID was a perfect example.
They're telling you,
you got to be 6 feet. They're all in stadium kissing each other, like hugging each other, like blah, 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 blah. They're almost French kissing right there.
Magic Johnson too.
We're different.
Magic Johnson.
Did you see the picture with Governor Newsom? This is in the height of the pandemic. They had a football game because football players don't get affected by COVID, right? And these guys are wearing the mask on the sideline next to each other, but on the field, like literally laying on top of each other.
So funny, right?
Magic Johnson took a picture. At the end of the game, Magic Johnson took a picture with Governor Newsom, and Magic Johnson has AIDS. So you want to talk about the poster boy for the immunocompromised, right? So it's COVID. This man's got AIDS. They got no mask, and there's nice hair Gavin, his son Elroy, taking pictures together like it's the fucking Tonight Show.
Yeah, I feel like
be that surprised though.
A lot of it's just and it's exactly that.
We're gonna have a nickname for him. Sorry,
Greasy Gavin.
No, French Laundry Gavin.
He
had a party. He had a party amongst during the COVID.
That's right.
Party among the elites. No mask. They're in there, and the music. You could hear music from outside. There's this place called the French Laundry.
But it's okay. But it's okay. They were sitting down. COVID only attacks you at 6 feet or above.
That's right.
If you're sitting down, you're fine. Or if you're Rob, you're fine too.
Yeah. So midgets don't need masks, right?
Or Rob.
Tiny people, I'd say midgets, right?
Boys, I'm literally 5'10". I'll bring my ID next time and I'll show you.
You like that thing, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm laughing, and then the show's over, and like. But yeah, no, Jason, I think you're right. I think it's that kind of stuff that just really, it's just cynicism, right? That really turns a lot of people off. And that's just one example, but when people see it again and again and again and again, people really, I think, get turned off by it. One thing I thought was really surprising that you just said is they had 58 senators as in 2009.
They had 58 Democrats and 2 independents, and you need 60. And the 2 independents probably, like one was Senator Sanders. Yeah, I think another one was from Maine or something like that. That I'm not really sure which way they can go, but these people know they have the votes before they call the vote to the floor, though.
Oh,
so,
for sure,
of course.
I'm not sure. So it's maybe something I don't know. Maybe they didn't have the votes, or maybe they did and didn't want to do it. Either way, we're the voters. We deserve to know where you vote, right?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Honestly, like you and I, Nico, we listen to every media, but like there's something really cool about seeing what people say to the media and how they vote.
Yeah,
like Cory Booker went on a 24-hour thing, right, about cheap medication and this and that. But there was a bill introduced where we can get cheaper medication from Canada, like diabetic medication, blood pressure meds, like Lipitor, at a highly reduced price. And one of the 50 senators that voted against it was Cory Booker. So he's an interesting guy, and he's trying to find his Obama moment, but I don't know.
I think he was
like, once you've had steak, you don't want liver. Obama steak, that guy's liver.
I think he was being groomed to be, the first black president. And then Obama came along, and I think that sort of, like you said, it's steak versus liver. But yeah, no, it's crazy just because it's really hard to imagine that kind of any party getting 58 senators these days, just the way, everything is so polarized right now. I'll just take a couple comments here. A lot of it is the audience just kind of talking to each other. And of course, we love to see that. Prairie says, I don't think Canadians will believe a Carney win. Do you think Canadians are so passive to accept a Carney win?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
No questions about it. No questions about it.
I think they will. I think, it'll be.
I'm not the only one that likes to get fucked in the ass, okay?
There it goes again.
As much as it sounds like a joke, it's not a joke, as in Canadians are very passive. Canadians are very complacent. Canadians will just take it, and COVID proved it. I thought it would wake up more people, like it did wake a lot of people. But at the end of the day, if you look at the 60 plus, we've been talking about this a lot, about how, and it's not just in Canada, like even in the US, if you looked at the hands-off protests over the weekend, Fox News went to interview some people, and their interviews were legit. Like, they weren't being assholes or anything. They were letting people talk, and it's all 60 plus. Like, you look at the people, you just freeze frame while they're getting interviews, and you look at the background. All old people. So there's a lot of no hair or white hair. So,
which is an interesting,
right? It's a mix of white and purple hair.
It seems like, even 10 years ago, the boomers were all pretty firmly right wing, and now that's shifted so dramatically, and it's really weird, eh?
I don't know that's the case. I think the people, although, man, it depends on the person.
Yeah,
but I think it might have been COVID. I think the people that changed were COVID. They realize a lot of things, because I think the boomers have always been more on the left by default because of the way they grew up. Like we talked about this yesterday, how the government did a lot of good things for the boomers that today don't work
Right.
anymore. That's
Yeah,
why the
just
leftists,
work
the
for them.
younger,
Yeah.
are like, no, we need to change the system. And then you have a Republican like Donald Trump that shows up trying to change the system, and everybody's pissed off.
Not like
So,
that.
exactly.
Not
But
this guy.
it
Um,
just looks like it's the same phenomena that we're seeing in North America. It doesn't matter that it's Canada or that
oh
it's
yeah,
the
no
US.
doubt.
The people
I'd
that
say
are
it's the
against
West.
Trump are the same people that are going to vote for Carney. Like it's the same thing. I don't know if you remember this, but they had polls when Trump was running against Kamala Harris, and the vast majority of Canadians would have voted for Kamala Harris. So
Yeah,
you know,
you mean in that age, in that demographic? Yeah.
well, who answers the polls, right? It's not a 20-year-old.
Well, yeah, that's actually. So I was actually going to bring some. I wanted to ask Jason something here. So just riffing off of Prairie here, she says, judging from crowd sizes we see at the rallies, there's a big difference. So yesterday, our question of the day was, do crowd sizes matter? And you remember that was a pretty big topic during both of Trump's presidential runs because he was getting a lot of attendance, but the polling, it wasn't showing up in the polling. So we talked about some reasons why that might be. But what's your take on that, Jason? Do you think that crowd sizes is a reliable indicator?
Crowd sizes, it's more about chicken or the egg, okay? Crowd sizes is not an indicator, but crowd sizes can be used to reverse, generate, or swing momentum, okay? For example, Kamala Harris, you guys were talking about, ran for president in 2019 and 2020, right? She was the most financed candidate. She had DNC money, she had FU money, and she wasn't able to secure one single delegate. I mean, even Mayor Bloomberg, who ran for like a month and a half, was able to get someone in the Isle of Samoa. Even Tulsi Gabbard got a delegate, right? So there were people that were less financed and less popular than her. She's a California senator and didn't get any whatever. And when Biden dropped out, like no one, like I asked personally, like, does anyone want to see Harris be president? And all of my friends were like, no.
Nobody.
But then when her crowd size, when Biden dropped out, there was a rally for her. This crowd size, like Nico, thought he was like in a dream sequence. Like, wait, this is the person that all these people said they didn't like. Now all of a sudden they love her. Now all of a sudden, wow, she's been there the whole time. Wow, she's
and it
our
was overnight,
savior.
right?
And that was all generated by a crowd size of where the private booths were billionaires, but the people on the ground were paid influencers. There were paid influencers, like Brooklyn Dad Defiant, that guy you see on Twitter all the time. Yeah. That's a paid influencer, and he's not even from Brooklyn. So to answer your question, crowd sizes are there to support something I call a bandwagon fallacy. A bandwagon fallacy is just because a premise is popular, that it's true. So if someone's saying something and if this whole bunch of people agree with them, they can't possibly be wrong. So crowd sizes are there to fake it, and then they make it until they make it. And we as veterans in this game of life, we know a crowd size that's organic. Like when Bernie Sanders had that little run, we knew those weren't paid influencers. Those were people, and Nico said, like the young people, Republican and Democrat, were doing a damn thing in 2016, 20, and now, and there's something about, I'll get into that in a minute, but I wanted to land by saying that crowd sizes depends on our sniff test. And I feel like I'm not answering the question at the end, but I kind of think I am. Right, crowd sizes are there to reverse or swing the masses, and sometimes they're there to take what you have and keep that ball running. So the answer is yes.
It should be sustained. Sustained crowd sizes should have probably been.
And I think the energy yesterday. Too, right?
But more 100
million to do that.
But more than that, because if you take Kamala Harris, for example, which is a great example, because overnight they went from Trump being 51% to 36% over with Biden, and she takes over, and it's literally 50-50. Like, let's call it 50-50, right? But then you saw that she could not maintain her crowd size, because the more that woman spoke, the more people are like, oh boy, yeah, boy. But then you look at Trump, it was the complete opposite. Like, that guy was just on the rallies were one after the other. It did not fucking matter where he was going. And it was just massive, massive rallies. So if you look at, and the reason we ask is because Carney, our prime minister right now in Canada, kind of made fun over the weekend. They released a video making fun of Pierre Poilievre, saying that crowd sizes matters, and they kept on shifting between Pierre Poilievre and Trump like they sound the same, which they definitely are nowhere fucking close to each other. But they talked about crowd sizes, and supposedly that in Edmonton a few days ago, he had 15,000 people showed up. Like, we don't have the same,
which is a lot
as you guys in the US. For Canada, it's a big deal. Like,
we don't have rally culture here.
No, I know, but we don't have big game culture. Like, the Bell Center, which is basically our biggest fucking center, holds like 30,000 people.
Yeah,
I've been in Alabama and fucking
high school football games
with bigger stadiums than this. So we don't have the same.
There's an appreciation for spectacle in the American psyche, I think, that Canada generally does not share.
But if you look at a Pierre Poilievre versus a Carney, Pierre Poilievre looks to have 10 to 15 times the amount of people show up to his rallies. And I know for a fact, I know a lot of the guys that covers those events. I know them personally. They're there with their cameras and they're recording to show it, because our mainstream media is not going to show it. So I know for a fact, I trust those guys. I know that what they're talking about, they're somewhere in the middle. They're just like, they're Canadians that create content around this. And I know I can trust them. And they're showing massive fucking differences between the crowd sizes that Pierre Poilievre will have, a more popular movement compared to the 10 years of the new liberal guys. Like, Carney's like the Kamala Harris with a brain. Like, he's worse. Imagine having somebody with a brain that replaces Biden, that was actually behind Biden the whole time. Now the brain is there, and that guy's dangerous.
He's sharp. He's a sharp guy.
He is not an idiot. Like, do not underestimate Carney. But this is where the question came in yesterday, as in, if you can sustain, not only sustain, but it looks like Pierre Poilievre's rallies are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, every time he seems to be posting, it's bigger. There's more people showing up. There's more enthusiasm. There's more people posting about it afterwards. It has to count for something. Because, I think it's you that said that, Rob, yesterday, where those people are not there to be convinced. Those are the people that will be there to support, and they're convincing other people out there. Like, those are your your super fans. The people that go to those rallies, they're talking about this in their personal life. They're saying why you should vote for that guy if they make that trip. So to me, there is, but again, I think you have a good point, Jason. You have to have a sniff test. Is it a Kamala Harris? Is it a Kamala Harris rally where she had to pay Beyonce $1 million to show up? Or is it just organically? And even Beyonce didn't stay.
She didn't even sing. She didn't even sing.
She showed up, gave her little speech.
She was paid for it, wasn't she?
Oh yeah, like $1 million or $2 million. I'm pretty sure that Kamala Harris gave her money right on stage after her speech.
A sack with a dollar sign on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bags of cash. Bags of cash.
She didn't stay, and she left right away. She didn't even stay for the rally. That's how much she believes in the sauce, right? Yeah.
I mean,
she could have went on Joe Rogan for free. She could have she could have saved like millions of dollars just talking to Joe Rogan for free. But Rob, hold that thought. But Nico, like, even if the crowd in the beginning is fake, if your product is real, you can fake it till you make it.
Oh yeah.
But if it isn't real, like you said, she had the big crowd, and after that, for a 100-day period, raised $1.4
billion. No, it was more than that.
$1.4 billion.
Oh yeah, it was insane.
That money, you should have been able to pay people to keep your crowd size, and that's just how much of a facade. Can you appreciate why I'm glad this woman didn't win? I'm glad. I'm glad she didn't win, because the process worked. I vote. Trump does not have my vote, but America decided, and the process, the electoral process, I couldn't believe allowed the right person to win. Not my right person, but the country wanted that. And I remember Joe Rogan on the next day after the election is like, "Wow, it works." It works. Who would have thought it works? Had Fetterman on, talked to Fetterman about it, Democrat. So,
and I think you touched on a good point there. Humans were herd animals, right? There's 60%, 60 to 70% who just do not have, the intestinal fortitude or the moral backbone to go against the crowd. And when they see the crowd going some way, then they will follow that without even really knowing or caring where they're going. And so I think that's kind of what you're getting at when the fake it till you make it part. And that's why I think a lot of these politicians do things like this. What starts out as fake can become some form of organic support, but it's not real support. It's just the support of wanting to go with the crowd and not wanting to be left out.
It's not sustainable. Like
no.
This podcast, what you guys are doing now, it's sustainable because you have revolving guests and people. We talked about this off camera, but people care about the characters. You guys are unique characters, and like in my world, beach volleyball. There was a group I won't name that had the money to push the YouTube algorithm, had like 186,000 views to talk about someone's journey, like being on the bench in college and finally starting. And I'm like, you can't tell me 186,000 people care about this man's journey. Nobody cares about this man's journey. And my friends were like, well, let them keep making episodes and let's see if it's sustainable, right? And everybody's like, oh, you only have 15,000 views, but I'm like, that's my, for my sport, like you said, you were talking about your crowd size. That's a big deal because when people said I only averaged 16,000 or 15,000 views, I asked them, is that more or less than the people that watch you play? If I'm getting more views talking about the game than you are people watching you play, I'd like to think I'm doing something right, and that translates to politics. You got it has to be right. Nico, it has to be sustainable, right?
Yeah,
but it translates to everything, right? You see that on social media all the time. How many times I got approached by people, hey, we can help you grow your social media. I'm like, okay, cool. I go on their profile, I make 10 times the view that you do, but you have 10 times the audience I do. So you're bots. So basically, I know if people are not watching your shit, you can claim to have a very big audience, but clearly nobody's fucking paying attention.
You see it a lot, right? 500,000 followers, and their posts get like 20 likes and shit, and it's like,
so they're full of shit. You know that they're full of shit.
Oh yeah.
Should we?
They're not even good enough to get ratioed. Some people care. Like some people care enough to hate your show, right? And if they hate your show, you're gonna get more. You're gonna get more comments than you do likes, right? If you get more comments than you do like, you get ratio. But that means someone cared enough to dislike you, and in that respect, you have something going.
It's even worse
as long as they're watching.
How many times have I told that to trolls? Like people insult me, and I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, all you had to do is to continue scrolling. You could have literally swiped. It would have been to the next video, but you took the time to come in, write a comment. I will make the time to respond to you. And thank you, by the way. Thank you very much for helping me with the algorithm. That tends to kill I've had people delete their old comments because they realize that they're helping me. But point being, it takes more out of your time to complain than to just swipe.
What was that line there from what's the Johnny Depp movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, when the girl's like, "You're the worst pirate I've ever heard of," and he's like, "But you have heard of me."
That is great. I forgot about that. That's great.
Yeah, I like that.
So you want to take Prairie's comments?
Yeah,
we'll go.
Yeah, and also just because I also wanted to get a little bit into this comment too. Prairie's giving us a lot of content here today. So she's just saying she's not believing the polls on Carney, and we've talked about this in the last couple of days, but it does seem like there is a trend, right? Over the last maybe 5 to 10 years of specifically conservative or right-wing politicians outperforming their polling. And obviously Donald Trump's the primary vector for that, but there's, it seems to be a broad trend. And we've wondered here on the show if maybe that's what's happening because Poilievre is clearly down in the polls. And it could be something as simple as, we've posited that, younger people don't really answer their phone and old people still do. If you get a phone call, they will answer it and they'll check their messages.
Hey, mom.
Yeah. No, you know what I mean? And it could be something as simple as that. But it's
because I don't. My phone has been on silent for years.
Especially if I don't recognize the number.
Jason tried to call me yesterday. I called him right back, but my phone's off. Like there's no volume on my phone, and I don't answer. If you don't text me right away afterwards, chances are I'll never fucking get back to you.
Prairie says, but boy, are there ever a lot of Polyev supporters that are scared, screaming, "Don't split the vote. I was told not to be selfish and to think of others." Sound familiar with some
Prairie? I released a video yesterday saying that I'm not voting for either. So welcome to the club. I understand. But
well, we talked about, I actually really like that idea. Nico had mentioned the other day about how
that
he
was
liked
yesterday. But
was it yesterday?
You know, the other day.
Yeah, it feels like just yesterday we talked about that.
Yeah,
it was yesterday.
It was.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
But Nico was saying that there should be an option on the ballot that says, I do not vote for any of these people, sort of like a conscientious objection, right? Which I actually really like, because it allows people to voice displeasure. That's not the same as saying I'm just too lazy or I'm not engaged. It's, you're making an active move. You're going to the polls and saying none of the above. And I feel like that number itself, if that gets to be a certain point, that could act as a certain policy trigger, right? Maybe cause the political class to be like, okay, something's, if you get 20% of that in your election, like clearly the electorate's not happy. I'd like to see that.
There was a movie like that called Brewster's Millions. It was Richard Pryor, and Richard Pryor's rich uncle passed away, and he had 30 days to spend $30 million to receive his true inheritance of $300 million. And all these investments that he made that were supposed to fail kept succeeding, and and he just kept making more money, because when you have that money, you just keep making more. And he decided to run for office, and that was the best way to lose the money. And he ran on none of the above. And
Really?
he's out there. He's got these rallies, and he's got food, and he's like, "Who's buying the booze?" Right? Everyone's like, "You are." He's like, "Who's trying to buy your vote?" "You are." He's like, "Who are you going to vote for?" Everyone goes,
"You."
And it was for like mayor of New York City, and none of the above won. So they had to have a runoff. But it was very interesting, guys. It's called Brewster's Millions. 1980 movie. Richard Pryor. His movies are timeless.
Pryor. I like that guy.
Yeah.
Cheryl says you
Richard
can do
Pryor,
that.
That's the black guy from Police Academy with the sounds, right? No, that's not him. That's somebody else. I'm being a racist right now, saying that all black people look alike. My bad, bro.
No, not racist.
But he is a black guy, though, right?
He's one of the best comedians in the history of
You definitely know him to see him. You definitely know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know who he is. He had the little fro going. Yeah, I like that guy.
Cheryl says you can do that. You have to fold the paper ballot in half and mark something on it. Yeah, I know, but like, is it actually recorded? What I mean?
No, it's not calculated.
Not in the same way. Yeah, like I think it should. That number should be put up there with all the results.
Oh, 100%. Oh, yeah, fuck yeah. Because if you have 10% of your population that went out of their way to vote just to tell you that they're unhappy with the candidates, that tells you something, because you're winning. How many percent did Trump need to win? It wasn't 10%, right?
Yeah. Well,
and he won between, like, so that 10% could be a massive amount of people. This is literally electing or not somebody. So
yeah, no, that's a great point. And it's separate.
I have a question for you too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since I'm a novice on Canadian politics.
We don't answer questions. We're like politicians.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But
so Jason, why do you care about Canadian politics? This is how I'm answering your question.
I don't know. The same reason why you hate
Nico's
women,
like, look inside yourself. Look inside yourself, Jason. Look inside yourself.
Yep.
No, but Jason, what was the question? And then we'll get to the topic.
In the United States, when a Democrat loses, or not, when someone loses, but mostly Democrat, they usually blame it on third-party voting, right? But if you look at the actual mathematics, for example, the last election, Michigan, Wisconsin, like Trump had beaten Kamala Harris, and all the people that voted third party, like Green Party, Independent, whatever, he won. He got more votes than all of them combined. So I've always contradicted that argument. But something I didn't take into account, and this is where you guys might come in. There are people that voted the couch. There are people that didn't show. That should be more to blame on how an election goes. So, how many? I guess my question is, the other parties, is it enough to take votes away from someone to win an election, or is it people that didn't show up to vote?
Yeah, I mean, and that's like kind of what you're getting at, I think, is actually why I really think there's a need for what Nico had mentioned yesterday, is because by going out there and voting none of the above, you're separating yourself from the group of people who just don't give a shit, right? Who are either too lazy, they're not engaged in politics, and that's a large number, especially in Western democracies. And I think anytime you just don't vote, even if it's for like a conscientious reason, you are engaged, whatever each party stands for, each politician, and you just actively do not like any of them, but you're going to get lumped in with all those other people. And I think there's value in separating those two groups. To your specific question, how much is sorry, how, like you were saying, how much is people not voting swaying the elections, or versus people who
Well,
are
I
voting
guess
third party?
like in the United States, we had 150 million votes total. I'll just throw out a raw
Okay.
number, which
Yep.
is only 1/3 of the country.
Yeah.
Like in Canada, do they have enough people that show up more than 33% of the vote? Or is it 2/3 where like you're really trying to get some of these people off
It's
the couch
definitely
to
not
vote?
2/3. I'll
Right.
check that out. I'll actually
No,
look
the
that up
United
as
States is
well.
1/3. Well,
No, I mean
I
in
don't know.
Canada, it's definitely not two. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
but
look that up as
you're
we.
talking 1/3 of the full population, but you can't vote under
Right.
18, right? So you have to remove a bunch of people from
Yep.
that. But um,
There's that. Yeah, there's a variable for your ass, huh? Yep, you're right.
Yeah.
is it? It's probably
Voter
more half.
turnout.
It's probably closer to half. But
I
Yeah.
agree.
Voter turnout.
While
Yeah.
you're looking that up,
2021. So
what?
2021
Yeah.
election Canada. You're
Mhm.
looking election Canada's preliminary estimate indicated that 17 million people showed up, casted a ballot.
Out
So
of
17 million were 35 million, and I believe
Eliminate
that's
kids.
how many Canadians are
That's a
above
big turnout, dude.
18.
That's a
You're
huge turnout.
looking at so 15 and above. Well, I don't know why they're saying 15 and above when I'm fucking asking for 18, but I think it's 25 million, give or take. So yeah,
That's a
that's a
huge
massive
number,
turnout.
though.
It's
Wow.
above 2/3, yeah, just from
If
the just from it, yeah.
this is from the Elections Canada
Election
website.
Canada,
Yeah, and if
yeah.
you go down here for 2021, it
So
actually says
62%, yeah. Damn.
Yeah, it says number of electors on the list is 27 million versus a total population. So they eliminate kids. So it's 17 million voted out of 27 million. So yeah, 62.6 is actually pretty solid. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest.
That's 63%. That's a
Of
massive amount of
eligible
people.
voters.
That's like 2/3, give or take, right?
Yeah.
God damn,
I
that
would
is a
also
massive.
like to give your audience a piece of advice. Anyone who tries to voter shame you and saying that voting for a smaller party gives our enemy a
Vote
bigger
splitting.
chance of winning.
Mhm.
I'd like for
Vote
you to just say,
splitting.
yeah, your biggest argument against them should be this, and they'll never talk to you again. But you should say the notion that I owe you my vote.
Yeah.
I'm not. Tell them they got it reversed. I'm not. It's not taking away votes. It's the vote was never theirs to begin with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So
Good
how
point.
could you take away something that didn't belong to them to begin with? And just say you're offended at the notion that you owe someone their vote. You don't owe them shit. A vote is earned. Right? Like if the Democrats wanted to win, they could have done so many things to earn their vote. Like even running Biden on a dementia drumstick in 2020 was enough to say, you know what? At least, Democrats would be like, even that version of Biden still better than Trump, right? America decided on that notion, and but just tell them I'm not taking away anyone's vote. My vote was not theirs to begin with. What are you talking about?
It's one of the party, the PPC in Canada, which is more right than our conservatives, because conservatives are not a real conservative party in Canada. That's what they hear all the time. And if you look, I think you have. Do you see the comments on the right now, Jason? You see them, right?
Yeah,
You as being in here. Okay. Prairie is she likes the PPC. She will obviously vote for them, and that is something that she was talking about even in here, talking about vote splitting. And we had the leader of that party on our show, and he answered that. That's one of the questions that we asked him, and his answer to me is very similar to what you just said. If the conservatives are voting for me, that just proves that the conservatives are not conservative enough. So whose fault is that? Is it my fault for being somewhere in the middle, or is it their fault for not being right enough? So I like the way you put it, because it's interesting, because the Democrats are very strong on the black vote, right? They feel that the black vote is deserved by them, that they deserve the black vote by default. And if you don't vote for the Democrat as a black person, you're not really a black guy, right? That's pretty much what the Democrats have been running on for years. But in Canada, it's interesting. We don't necessarily have that on a race base, but you have that with smaller party like the People's Party of Canada saying, if you don't vote for the conservative because you want to kick out the liberals out, you're vote splitting. Right. But then is it really the fault of the smaller party if the conservative are not conservative enough for their own base? No, it's not. So well, I like that. I like what you're saying. You don't deserve my vote. I don't owe you shit.
Yeah, do better.
That's a good point. I like it.
How about do a better job?
Yeah, exactly.
And also, how about
earn my vote?
How about don't be so lazy? Like Nico, you stumbled onto something that was really, really important. Like they were able to get black votes and this votes in certain demographics because there was an identifiable statistic. And what they haven't realized is that evolution works in every form, right? You can't get the black vote by saying we're going to make weed legal and get your brother out of jail. Why? Because black
or showing up with fried chicken.
Grape drink.
Grape drink.
All for you. Grape drink. Right.
Here's some purple juice for you.
Do that
not yeah.
No, but in this information age, black people are getting a message out there that we're not a monolith. Right. Same thing with Latinos. You can't say we're gonna be on your side on immigration. If the Latino you're talking about is third generation, right? Are you talking to a Mexican where that might be important to his assuming he's a monolith? Or are you talking to a Puerto Rican who are fourth generation here? There are more Puerto Ricans in New York than there are in San Juan. That's a fact for your ass. So, right? I mean, remember I joked about it a couple of weeks ago. What are you going to do? Go up to gay people and say, hey, 10% off of Vaseline. Do I have your vote or not? Right? I mean, these gay people are not a monolith. Right?
Yeah,
so,
they'll probably be offended by that.
Yeah.
Because they don't use Vaseline. They go raw.
Money
I just spit on it. It's lazy
you
politics.
Heard though, Nico?
Right.
$1.4 billion of laziness. Laziness.
I think,
and then when the election's over, have the balls to say we're 20 million in the hole. We need your.
Oh, I fucking love that. Getting overspent by 20 million. It's awesome.
Did you hear about
billion
that,
dollars.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's fucking incredible.
I feel like her whole campaign
Andrew
was a
Dice
grift.
play for a chick. You got some set of balls, man.
You know what? She could have done exactly what she did to become VP and start sucking.
I don't think she I don't
Yay.
There's a case to be made that she never really expected to win. I'm sure she would have taken it if she won, but
she would have taken it all right.
A lot of that money was just, I think, just used to enrich, her buddies and her friends, and how can you spend 1.4 billion and like
and still be 20 million in a hole?
Yeah,
and
like
still have the balls after the election to say we need an extra 20 million. And these
that's fucking wild, right?
These cucks,
but
for
that
the
just shows
you.
But that just shows you how great they would have been at managing a budget, right? That's kind of right then and there. If that does not scare you, or just say, "Whoo, we dodged a bullet on that one." Imagine, yep. You want to take Melissa?
Yeah, I got that. So Melissa says, I just mailed in my ballot since she lives in Texas. I didn't see an option to vote for no one. However, I could have sent a blank ballot. Yeah, and you can also write in on some ballots, but
they don't calculate.
It's not going to be calculated. Right? It'll just be like, under the other category and whatever. Whereas I think if you had a specific option saying, I do not support any of these candidates,
exactly.
and then calculate it in your final polls, and that that sends a message that just sort of writing in someone I don't think necessarily does.
This is what my point was, is just, yes, there's ways for you to say that I don't want to vote for those people. You can fold it, you can send it blank, but how about calculating it? How about being honest and see
calculate?
how many people are, and you know, like I said, I rewatched that part of the video yesterday, and you know, I would even like a double option. Like me, for example, if you gave me a choice, I would rather have a Pierre Polyev than a Mark Carney. No questions
Mhm.
about it. Just like in the US, right? I would have voted for Trump over Kamala Harris if you gave me the option. Does that mean I align with everything he does? Of course not. But in Canada, it's even worse. I would have voted for Trump, saying, you know what, I will vote for him over Kamala Harris because he aligns more with me. But in Canada, I'm looking at both of them and I'm not going to vote for either of them. I'm not. I cannot bring myself to vote for somebody that's a weak leader. Love Trump or hate him, you have to say that he's a leader. Pierre Poilievre's not a leader. He's a bitch. He's not a leader. To me, he's just a soft man that would never lead me into combat. I would never follow that guy into combat. He's a bitch. I know he'd pussy out somewhere, and I'd end up getting killed because of his type of leadership. So I cannot condone a guy like that. So there's a difference, right? But if you give me a choice, I'd love to see that option too. I tried to explain it yesterday, but I don't think I did a good job at it. But to say, yes, I'm going to vote for Pierre Poilievre because it's the lesser of two evils, and I want to kick out the Liberal Party, but I'm just doing it to kick the Liberal Party out. It's not because I like him. It's not because I want to vote for him. I just don't want the Liberals to be. Oh, I'm voting against the Liberal, not for the Conservative Party.
There is something called ranked choice voting that
Yep,
some
that's
places do,
point.
where you would put,
Canada
like,
was supposed to have it. Trudeau was saying that we would move
really. I
from
like
past the
it.
Pope. But of course, as soon as he got elected, he realized
Once he
that
realized
he
it
would not
probably
be elected.
once he realized
So
it
he
probably
never
wouldn't help
did.
him. Yeah.
No.
But yeah, no, that's good. So should we get into it? An hour and some change.
Yeah.
All
Sure.
right. So
Also, Nico, you were talking about lesser of two evils. I'm so sorry.
No.
Should we get into it? You know, Nico,
you were talking about but I wanted to finish.
Third grade.
I wanted to finish by saying, let me tell you the story of another loser. No, but Nico mentioned the lesser of two evils, and everybody makes that seem like a negative term, but the lesser of two evils is not that bad in the sense that you're giving up something, but you know when you vote for this person, you're at least getting something for what you're giving up.
Something.
And the reason why the Democrats lost is because they did vote the lesser two evils, because they thought when you vote for a lesser, right? The lesser two evils is in the classic sense of the term is a compromise, right?
Yeah.
And when
100%.
Biden says, I'm going to run on wiping student debt clean, right? When he says on day one, by the way, and he says, I'm going to make sure we have a livable wage on day one, and you don't do it 4 years later, then that's not the lesser two evils. That's not sharing. That's leftovers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Back to what you were saying earlier, like you've said it multiple times on the show, where you did not want to vote for Trump, but you were happy Kamala lost. That's the lesser of two evil. That is the definition of a lesser of two evil right there.
That's the American way. Yep. I'm ecstatic.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah. I've used that several times to sort of explain my take on Trump. I don't really like him. I don't like that he won, but I'm ecstatic that Kamala lost. I think you know, I certainly there would be. It would just be more of the status quo. There would be absolutely nothing done. It would just be, you know, she just caretaking, keeping the lights on for the next 4 years. But when we're already going down the wrong path, you know, can we
listen,
even
in a
afford that?
50-year period, the Democratic Party has only had two real leaders, right? We've elected some presidents like Jimmy Carter. He's a rocket scientist, a literal rocket scientist, but he wasn't
Is
a
he
leader,
actually?
Right? Yeah. He was the last. He's a literal rocket scientist, but he wasn't a leader, right?
No.
Bill Clinton, leader. Barack Obama, leader. Joe Biden, not a leader, right?
No.
Like H.W.
He's
Bush,
a classic
like
wingman,
the
right?
synthetic, the watered down version of his dad.
Yep.
Right? The C student that went to Yale and still became president was a leader. He had leadership qualities. And Nico keeps bringing up leaders, people that you look at and say, I trust that guy, goes a long way. That goes beyond policy, right?
Yeah.
The Republicans had a B-level actor, right? a game show host, a CIA spook, and a C student from Texas that got into Yale, right? But what do all four of those people have in common? All four of them have leadership qualities. You know, like Bill Clinton, we can even disagree if he was a leader. But so we disagree on Bill Clinton. That's only one Democratic president that had leadership capabilities. That's Barack Obama. He's the only.
I would agree.
50
Clinton
years.
was as
He's
well.
the only one.
I would agree with
since
Clinton.
JFK. Yeah.
Did you see? Okay, we'll stop after this, but it's just yesterday I saw a video of Monica Lewinsky, what she looks like today. That sperm did some great job.
She looks like good.
Oh, really?
Right?
Oh, fuck yeah! I was like, because the person was a Trump supporter that posted that, but he's like, can you imagine this is your wife and they show Clinton, they show Hillary Clinton, and then they're like, and you skipped on that, and I'm like, damn, like Lewinsky actually.
Do you ever see?
She
young
looks
Hillary
better
Clinton
now. She looks better now than she did when she was on her knees.
Yeah. I'm not voting for someone where like someone else has to hit her husband off. Nope. That's why I didn't vote for Clinton, man. I'm not going to vote for her for someone where they need somebody else to hit the hubby off.
I know,
and
but
it paid off.
look,
She got Clinton jizz, man.
But
that vitamin S.
Oh, top left. Is that her now?
Yeah, that's
She
the
looks better
4 days
now
ago,
than
man.
she did back then.
But that's what I was saying. Like I
Yeah.
was looking at those pictures and videos. Oh, see, this is the video I saw. I'm like,
Wow.
damn, Clinton. Damn, there's some high level sperm right there.
Nobody doubts Clinton's game.
That vitamin S.
If nothing
Vitamin
else,
S.
but
No,
you know,
I've said this before, but I saw him live, Clinton. I would have sucked his dick. See, if I would have known, I would have definitely sucked his dick. I'd probably look like I'm 20 right now.
yeah.
Jesus, Nico, is it Friday already?
I'm French, bro.
But what you're
we don't
talking
care about that.
I mean, what you're talking about, though, leadership, I think that's an undervalued trait, which is crazy because we're literally electing leaders. Leadership quality should be probably one of the main things we look at, but no one ever really looks at that, right?
That's why I can't vote for Pierre Poilievre, because he's not a leader. Like I look at him and I don't see a leader at all. I see a coward that's going to run away when shit gets tough. That's what I see.
And that's why I say when, I don't necessarily agree. Like if I was president, I don't think I would be doing things the way that Trump is with regards to how he's trying to shake up the global system, how he's trying to rectify what he perceives as wrongs. But I can respect that he's doing it. He's that's a leadership quality, right? You make a plan, you execute on your plan, and the chips fall where they may, and how leadership works is if it works out, you're going to be the GOAT. And if it works, and if it doesn't, you're going to eat some shit. And I will always respect somebody who puts their chips in the middle and just says, fuck it. This is what we're doing.
And I wish we had that in Canada. I wish that either of the two big parties actually had a leader. Because as much as I don't like Obama, he was a leader. As much as there's a lot of Trump I don't agree with, he's a leader. Nobody can debate. Nobody can say however you like or hate Trump or love or hate Obama. I don't think anybody can say that both those guys weren't leaders, no matter what they were leaders.
I think
I don't see that in Canada. I don't see that in Canada.
I think you could make the case Carney, certainly more than Trudeau, has some leadership qualities. The problem with Carney,
because he can't be questioned. As soon as he gets questioned, he crumbles. As soon as he gets questioned, he starts being emotional. Like, look within yourself, Rob.
Tyrants are leaders too.
Maybe we should say, but leadership material
too. Sorry, Nico.
Yeah. Zelensky being the perfect example.
Yeah.
You want to get into this for real?
Yeah. Let's get into this for real. So the top story obviously is again the market turmoils that we're experiencing because of Trump's sort of thing. So I think how me and Nico were kind of like, man, like we got to cover it because it's all the news cycle is about. At the same time, we're really kind of in uncharted territories. So we're just going to kind of try to basically inform as opposed to editorialize, just sort of straight up sort of this is what's going on. Here's some potential theories. Like Nico referenced a video that we played on Monday, and he had said that the guy had a really interesting theory. And I've heard this quite a bit since Monday, but the basic theory was perhaps Donald Trump is trying to essentially put us into a short-term recession so that force the Fed to lower interest rates, because America has $9 trillion worth of debt coming due this year, and it's going to have to refinance. And if you can even get, for every like 1 basis point, and usually they'll drop interest rates by 0.25 basis points, something like that. It's something like it's going to be worth hundreds of billions over the next 10, 15 years. So that's kind of the thinking behind that strategy. And that's something just to keep in mind as we sort of dig into this a little bit. But I think just to start us off, I'll just play a clip that's sort of just discussing briefly how we where we are right now, because it really is changing by the minute. Let me see here. All right.
In the last few moments, China has announced that they are, in return, going to bring in Chinese tariffs on US goods at the rate of 84%, and that will come into effect from April the 10th. That has come in just the last few moments. It's come from the Chinese Finance Ministry. They've told the World Trade Organization that the US's decision to impose reciprocal tariffs on Beijing threatens to further destabilize global trade. They say the situation is dangerously escalated as one of the affected members, China, expresses grave concerns and firm opposition to this reckless move, but they have in return announced that they are then therefore going to increase their tariffs on America. Let's talk to our business presenter, Darren McCaffrey. So I would say a tit for tat trade war, but 84% versus 124%. It's not tit and it's not tat, is it?
No, but it is a proper full-blown trade war, and it is a sign that China is not prepared to cede any ground on all of this. I mean, ultimately, they have taken quite a bullish decision on this. They have suggested that they are willing to take the United States on when it comes to this trade war, and this is a further sign of what we are seeing here with those extra tariffs of 84% on US goods.
So that's sort of what caused the big disruption, for today, is the tariffs went into effect. At midnight last night, Donald Trump, the 104% tariffs on Chinese goods, which is fucking insane. Insane in the sense of, I don't even know if it's good or bad, but insane that it is going to have major repercussions for just the global economic system of the last 70 years, right? Which is, or at least since the 70s, which has been China makes shit and the rest of the world, but especially America, buys it. With 104% tariffs, and then China added 84% tariffs on back on America, that essentially makes that system not really sustainable. So I think, we don't know where we're going to go from here, but wherever it is, it's absolutely uncharted territory. And that's sort of what's causing the market turmoil. Although as I look right now, everything's up. NASDAQ's up 2%, S&P's up 1%, the Dow's almost at 1%. And yeah, so that's sort of where we are.
But at the same time, it's just, it's all fluff to me, because the Chinese don't buy from Americans.
No,
like I should have saved the video from yesterday. There was a video. The guy explained how being able to sell your own products in China is extremely difficult, extremely difficult. So they're not buying it already. So they can put all the tariffs that they want. It's not going to change much. They're the one that's going to pay. Chinese are the ones that are really going to be hurting, not Americans, because they don't fucking buy our product. Same thing for Canada. Chinese don't buy our fucking product. They just put 100% tariffs on our shit a month ago. Yet nobody's talking about this. Like Canada, and that is as much Polyev as Carney. They're not talking about this. China's put 100% on our fucking goods, 100% tariffs. We're not talking about it. Oh, no, it's okay. Like, we're going to go to trade war with the US. Yeah, that makes a lot of fucking sense. That's why at the end of the day, the bottom is saying here, Canada aligns with China, because this is what I'm seeing. If you were trying to convince me that, if you were trying to show me that Canada is a puppet state for China, Carney and Pierre Poilievre are showing it to me right now by not attacking China for putting 100% tariffs, yet saying that we need to go to war with the US. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? So,
yeah,
a lot of hypocrisy here.
I agree with you that I don't think the 84% tariffs are really going to move the needle much. What I think does and will is that 104% that America is putting on China. China also has some leverage, some other things, like, for example, China owns most of the U.S. debt. Now, if they really want to fuck shit up, they can they can start selling their treasury bonds, and that will, in many ways, force interest rates to go up in a way that might make it very difficult for America to refinance their debt if that is indeed the strategy. So it's kind of interesting watching it play out. You're really watching two heavyweights, swing back and forth and just land haymaker after haymaker. Kind of sucks because we're all sort of caught in the middle of it. At this point, Trump's got to keep going. There's nothing gained now by sort of pulling back, and I think I think one way or the other, things are going to look very different in the global economic system in the next couple of years.
But I don't think China has any leverage, because I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, the only reason that China has money is because of the free trade agreement that they have with the U.S. By U.S. closing, the U.S. holds the power. If China tomorrow,
China definitely has some leverage. If they dump their treasury, if they dump their debt, they can fuck up the U.S. dollar big time.
But it doesn't matter. They trade in dollars. They have to establish another form of currency before they can actually dump the money. And they've been trying to do it for a while. I cannot remember what the name of the new currency is, but BRIC, exactly.
Yeah.
If BRIC was in place right now and ready to go, they would have leverage. But I wouldn't be surprised. And it's interesting, we didn't think about this. Maybe that's why Trump is not waiting. At the beginning you were saying he could have waited. Maybe that's why he's not waiting. Yeah. He's not waiting because they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. China right now, as it stands, just like Canada as it stands, we don't have a choice to deal with the US. Yes, our long-term goal could be to be more self-reliant, which every single fucking nation in the world should have that as a plan, to depend on your own people instead of being dependent on others. But at the same time, in the short term, it's not feasible. And China would fuck themselves. So they will not have a choice to deal with the US.
It's a circular flying squad for sure. There's no scenario. They can. I do believe they can fuck America, but they will also be fucking themselves while they do it.
Which they're not going to do. You don't shoot your biggest customer in the leg and shoot yourself in the leg at the same time and see which one bleeds out first. You're not.
It's not smart for sure. I'm just going to show one more chart, and then I want to just throw to Jason just to get his take on this. So this is something that's fairly interesting. So this is U.S. 30-year Treasury bond yields, essentially. What this means is this is a proxy for interest rates. So interest rates have obviously gone shot through the roof. Essentially, bonds have gone down dramatically because interest rates move reverse of bond prices. But what's interesting about this, and I'm not an expert, I'm just sort of reading some experts' opinions, is I think it's surprising to everyone, including the Trump administration, because usually stocks and bonds move different from each other, right? Bonds represent safety, stocks represent risk. So a lot of times in a risk off environment, when investors get spooked, they sell stocks and then they buy bonds. Yeah, exactly. And so bonds go up. They often very much go, I saw a tweet the other day from some Wall Street guy, and he said, any bartender in Wall Street will tell you the bond guys and the stock guys, they celebrate different days. And and today, what's sort of really confounding and sort of makes it feel like this, okay, we're really in uncharted territories, is bonds are going down heavily. And I think the general consensus is China is dumping their bonds as a way. Now, I don't know. It could just be a warning shot, a shot across the bow, because as you said, Nico, I agree, there's no way they can hurt America, but they can't do it without really hurting themselves. Too.
They're so dependent. The U.S. and China
both are
dependent. Oh, yeah. They're so dependent on each other in the short term that no matter what, it's like I've said before, I think it's a negotiation tactic from Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He just wants to be able to, he's asking for something absolutely astronomical, knowing that he's going to probably get something that makes sense for everybody, because all you're hearing about is the world's coming to an end. Anything outside of the world's not coming to an end is going to be awesome for everybody. So,
Yeah.
But at the same time, keep that thoughts. Let me show one video before Jason goes, and that's Mr. Wonderful, fucking
Kevin
O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary, that unlike Trump, he said this morning, he released this video, he said he would go 400% tariffs on China, but not for the reasons that you think. And if that is indeed true, what he's saying, if that's indeed true, I understand why he would say that. I don't know that I agree with it, but I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think me and you are just playing video of smart people saying things and just sort of throwing it all out there and being like, here's
but as you said, it's uncharted territory.
Yeah,
it's uncharted territory. But at the same time, what Leary is going to talk about was Nancy Pelosi talked about it in the video I showed on Monday. That there's things that China does that no other country is allowed to do because they have such a monopoly on cheap goods. So like the U.S. has let it
stealing intellectual property. They have barriers to their market. American companies cannot work within China nearly as easily as the reverse.
Nope. And that's what O'Leary, you'll see, that's what O'Leary's talking about.
But Kevin,
and then we'll get Jason in because I do want to hear his take on this.
Kissing his ass was the phrase he used. But Kevin, he said there's a lot of deals that they're literally kissing his ass was the phrase he used, very eloquently. Where are the deals?
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades.
And this is broadly agreed upon by everybody.
I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that look like?
I want Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. This is not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
You know what I like the best about this video is that's basically what you and I, Rob, have been saying.
Yeah.
Love Trump or hate Trump, he's the only fucking guy to have the balls to say, fuck you, China. Like, let's do this. Like, let's go. Let's see where the chip falls. Is he right? Is he wrong? Time will say. But I like to have a guy like O'Leary that is obviously a lot more educated on the market than we are, say basically the exact same. Even he takes it even further than what you and I would say. But the way he explains it is, you're talking about a guy that deals with China, that probably has some of his IP stolen, and he's just like, fuck those people. Let's put a squeeze on them. And what did he say? His goal is to bring Xi here to negotiate exactly what I've been saying. So
so like 400%, not necessarily as a long-term policy, but as a way to really make them come to the table. So Jason, now that you've sort of gotten caught
as
up
the token American,
like what's your take on all of this? What's your take on what Trump's doing? What do you think he's doing? Do you agree with it? And where do you think we're headed? Because you haven't been here on in the comments section for a couple of days, so I'm really not quite sure where you stand on this. So I'd like to hear.
Well, As the token American, I'd like to start by saying that our American exceptionalism is in full blown capacity. Because if there's anything Americans won't tolerate, it's a government that cheats and steals. If there's anything the United States of America won't tolerate, it's a government that cheats and steals. How dare them, those sons of bitches? Get the fuck out of here.
Unless it's the American government.
I had more respect for that guy in the beginning when he was talking about competition and winning. But when he went on this fucking moral high horse, no, they cheat, they steal intellectual property. Oh, we're not going to have that. Get the fuck out of here. Who is the biggest country in stealing intellectual property and cheating? It is not. Everyone thinks it's China because that's on the news. It's us. So as an American, I'm proud that we chest thumped our exceptionalism. And as Nico would say, not for me, but for thee. Now, for the rest of it, you guys did such a great job. I feel like I'm that movie 8 Mile where like Eminem, went up there and he said everything that the other guy was gonna say against him before he got on the mic. So you motherfuckers kind of Eminem'd me. So the only
This
I
dude's
guess I'll
Clarence?
only leave room.
He went to
I'll only
Clanbrook.
leave
That's a
room-
private school.
Yeah, right. What's the
That's
matter?
the new
Joel?
Captain
You
America.
embarrassed? This
Do you
guy's a
realize
gangster.
that?
His real name is Clarence.
Yeah.
And Clarence was his home with his parents. And his
Okay,
parents
do you
Clarence
remember-
have a real good marriage?
The guy that he smoked is the new Captain America.
Yeah, that's Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he was
This
a
guy to win
kid,
the
man,
battle,
he was
he
young.
shook because ain't no such thing as
Guess halfway crooks. Mobb Deep right there, bro. Fuck
You know your
Mobb
hip-hop.
Deep's the
So,
shit.
One
One
Yeah.
of the best beats ever made.
I love
One
it.
of the best beats ever made.
I love it.
Shook
Oh,
Ones
Mobb Deep. Yeah.
by Mobb Deep. This has to
Shook
be
Ones.
the most used freestyle beat of all. Fuck, what an easy beat to rap on, and it's
It
gangster.
really is. Also,
Yeah.
survival of the fittest. So survival. Actually, 2 of them. Shook Ones is definitely one, but survival
Shook
of the
One's the
fittest
bomb.
on that same album, man. Mobb Deep.
Yep.
R.I.P. Prodigy. R.I.P. Prodigy.
Yeah.
Um,
What a great
so
fucking
because you
rapper.
guys did such a fantastic job, I guess I'll just leave the question out there for you guys to answer. As far as these tariffs are concerned, on a broad scale, does China need us more than we need them? Nico seems to think it's that one way, because I came into the conversation thinking we needed China more than they need us. But if you're talking about the goods that they ship to us, I got to go more towards Nico. They're not selling sheep fur for fur coats for the winter. They're not bringing over steaks, the like perishable items that we need. They need us. I think they need us more than we need them. So that's a question. I form my own opinion, but I want to leave that out there. And I also want to say that you don't want to make this a moral or like a personal thing, because if you make it personal with
100%.
Trump, his ego identity to not want to lose, and this is what I think China's doing right now. If you say it's your turn to lose, Trump will lose his shit and he'll do what he can to win, right? Yeah, I mean, all the way back from the debate, like the only debate him and Harris had, all Kamala Harris had to say was my crowd size is bigger, and Trump lost capacity for everything he was going to talk about. So my question is, do you guys support support my assertion that they need us more than we need them? And 2, how far have they seeped into Trump's ego identity where this might become more about just winning and losing?
Yeah, and I think that's it's hard to say who needs who more. I think the truth is probably China needs America more. But they're both so intertwined. The last 30, 40 years of this, free trade, open borders has made the economies just so dependent on each other. That's the mechanism. That's the deal. China makes shit, America buys it. I would say just by the nature of that deal, probably China needs America more because America can always buy more shit from someone else. But China doesn't have a second market that's equivalent to America. And as O'Leary said, even dictators require some, a baseline of public support. Xi's done very well. He's a smart guy. He's very sharp. But fundamentally, it's because Chinese standards of living have going up and up and up and up and up since the 70s. But that's entirely dependent on America buying Chinese goods. The moment that changes, all of a sudden now Xi is at risk in a way he never has been before. And that ain't America, right? He's not just at risk of losing his job. He's at risk of fucking flipping out of a 10-story building, right? It's still some of that old timey sort of, dictatorial politics over there. So I think, I think the biggest danger I see is it turns into a game of chicken between two very proud men who let their egos get in the way. I think there's lots of opportunities to avoid that scenario. And I do believe, just the stakes that we're talking about, it will there's got to be a massive burden. You know what I mean? It's got to be, you're essentially playing poker with the global economy as the stakes, right? And I think if China is smart, I think they will, it is still China. They have to save face. And I think Trump will be wise if he gives them a way to back down while saving face. But I think that's essentially what I can see happening. Just recognizing, America has, we have been unfair. We've squeezed as much, blood from the stone as we can. Now we have to start dealing with them in an appropriate way. And I think, Nico, what you said about like the BRICS currency, they're definitely trying to make, this currency, the reserve global currency. And they're probably 5 to 10 years from actually succeeding. So perhaps that's why Trump's moving now. Because if they do succeed in that, then that will be another absolute game changer for the global economy, right? Everything is based on the US dollar right now. And that does give America some serious privileges.
Why are we acting like we can't steal back, right? They have chips that from China, from my video camera, this and that. Like everything in this studio right now is as close to US made as can possibly be done. But I really despise the fact that if someone's cheating, if someone's playing unfair, why can't we just, are we that, like, technology wise that far behind that we can't steal back and keep things in America? For example, my cell phone, right? This is an iPhone, and everybody could say, you got your iPhone from those guys that worked in the cobalt mines, but there are other options. I paid a $200 more for my phone to make sure that it was made in the USA in Cleveland, Ohio. So there's the manufacturing for iPhones in Cleveland that I guess I can afford and some people can't. But it's weird. Like, I'm glad you guys were tackling this question. Do we need them this much?
I quoted. I talked about this before, but I'm gonna say it again. Where Warren Buffett said that your president should be a great educator. He should be there to explain to its people why he's doing what he's doing. And right now, to me, if I was Trump, all I would do is to say, on average, Americans have $105,000 of debt between their student debts, credit cards, and mortgage and their car loan. Maybe it's time for us to be more conscious about how we spend our money. By not having China having their supply of crap here and spending more on less, maybe that's the way to go. So, it's, to me, it all depends how you play it. If I was him, this is how I would play it. I'd continue doing what he's doing and just inform my people to say, guys, maybe this is the perfect opportunity for us to just
hold that
the way
thought,
that we live.
It might be coming true. So as I just checked, and now the Dow's up 6%. So immediately I'm like, okay, what the fuck happened?
Bro, NASDAQ is up 9%.
8%. Holy fuck. So now I'm looking at the news. So Trump announces 90-day tariff pause for at least some countries. So this is actually, I think this is a very smart move. So what he's doing says, so there's a 90-day pause for the full effect of his new tariffs, except he's raising the tariffs on China specifically to 125% effective immediately. So one thing that I heard again and again was like, even people who support Trump was like, I don't understand the global trade war. Like, I get going after China. Why is he going after Europe, Canada, Australia? Like, why not gather a coalition and all of us go after China? Because China is the major problem. And it looks like, based on just this headlines I'm seeing, it looks like that's what he's doing. And the markets seem to love it. And
Well, the rich get richer,
from the get-go.
right?
But
The rich get
but I
richer.
told you- But I've said this from the get-go. It's a negotiation tactic. That's all he's doing. That's all he's been doing. That's what Trump does. He's been talking about this shit since the 80s. There's nothing new in what he's doing. He's just doing it on a world level right now. And but at the same time, if he could come out so smart if he just came in to say, I'm going to leave the tariffs, exactly what you're talking about right now. Okay, cool.
yeah,
We're going to boost them to 125% because I want you guys to learn that we need to spend less money, keep it more here. Let's spend less over the next couple of years. Let's tighten the budget a bit, invest in businesses that are here so that instead of buying a bunch of cheap shit from China, we allow our industries in the US to start building shit. Yes, it's going to be a bit more expensive, but guess what? It's going to be better quality. It's going to be an investment instead of buying the same shit every 2 years. There's a way to turn this into a win. And to me, he's
it's
just
already a win for
negotiating.
billionaires.
well, yeah,
but but forget those guys. They're always going to win. No matter what, they always going to win because those are the guys that weren't scared.
Care about the Dow? Sorry,
No, but
Nico,
that's the thing,
sorry.
right? If you had money in the system, Rob and I have been talking about this. Like I'm literate when it comes to the market and how it works, enough that I understand where to put my money. I understand that. It's not, and I'm the type of guy that can leave money in an account, not look at it for 2 years. I don't even care. I have some investment that I will not look at. I don't care. I'll look at it when I feel like it, but I'm not worried because it's a long-term game. I knew that money was not my fucking rent was not dependent on that money, right? And so that's why I'm saying for the billionaires out there, it dips 10% or not, they don't care. It just made 8% right now. Right off the bat, they made 10%. So if they did buy, which they probably did on Monday, now they're like, I'm already 10% up, bitches. And if you have $1 billion invested, 10% is a lot of fucking money, bruh. So they're always going to win. No matter what, they're always going to win.
And we said repeatedly, don't take our advice. We're just a couple of yahoos, but we both said, if it might be a nice place to buy, because really, basically the absolute worst case scenario was priced into the market. Anything other than worst case scenario, and the markets are going to shoot up. And that's essentially exactly what happened.
The only one that lose, it's unfortunate, but the only people that lost over the past week are regular average people that do not understand how the market works and that were emotional. Those are the only people that.
How does that affect them?
No,
I mean, right?
No, but it does because if
they sold at the bottom,
if you sold,
it's scary. It's really scary.
Every time you have a dip in the market like that, there's money that disappears. Everybody's going to lose a bit of money, but if you're playing the long game, which the millionaires and the billionaires are, to them it's just a dip. They don't care that 6 months from now, like Patrick Bet-David made a great video about this. Out of the 10 last crises, 9 of them between 6 months to 18 months, not only did the market remake the dip, but it was worth more. So if you're just dumping your money and you're not too worried on the day-to-day or even year over year, you're not going to lose. It's the people like you and I that don't necessarily have a great understanding and are emotional buyers. They're like, oh, I've heard that's a good investment, so I'm going to invest. Leave it.
Yeah, it's not money disappearing, guys. It's a transfer of wealth.
Oh, 100%. The money disappears. The money disappears.
That we know where it's going to.
No, the money disappears from regular people's bank account
and
eventually reappears into other people.
His bank account. Okay. Yeah.
The only people that are losing in those type of situations are regular people that are emotional buyers, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Look,
so
we were able to lock down this country, right? Because of COVID. Right?
Yep.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like we can't keep people out of the border, but we could lock down a country. So what we're capable of doing for the sake of America, is you always want to keep your eyes open as far as transfer of wealth. Like during COVID,
Sure.
the biggest transfer of wealth in the history of man happened. That money didn't disappear; it transferred upward.
Yep.
And this Dow and all of this stuff, and again, they want people to not understand, which is why I'm glad you guys are on this podcast, because I get an education from you. Like someone driving a truck or working at Starbucks, tell them the Dow's up 9%. They'll just shake
don't
their
know.
head like they
Sure.
understand what you're saying, so you can get the fuck out of their store.
But now,
they'll do
you know,
this.
a lot of middle class people do have, retirement funds, and they're probably breathing a sigh of relief, right now, because most of that is in stocks. I just wanted to touch on something you had said, Jason, when you were like, why can't America, steal back? And I'm sure that they do. But the fact of the matter is America does have a rules-based system. And if a company, even a Chinese company, feels like their IP is being stolen, they can, and they will, and they do have standing to bring that up in a court. And the judges, broadly speaking, are going to try to be impartial. They're not going to say just Team USA so they can do whatever they want. If the Chinese company makes a case, then the judge will find in favor of them. That option doesn't exist in the opposite. An American company can't take.
You know
Chinese.
why? Well, the rule system that the United States had, did the United States make them, or
Well,
did
sure,
China
and of
make
course,
them?
no, it's the American rules-based order, right? They set up this
They
system
decided
after
for
World War
themselves.
II, but it is as much as you're ever, and I'm sure, of course, it is going to favor America because they built the system, but it is somewhat impartial. There is ways that companies can, it's not literally just judges always saying yes, rah rah, Team USA. Any country that sets up a global trade order is going to skew it in their benefit, of course. But to the extent that it's possible that a country would create a fair system, I think America's done a pretty good job at that. But there's nothing equivalent in China, and I think that's a lot of what the complaints are. I like Trump's strategy here. I thought a lot of the trade wars against America's allies seemed really not smart. And it seems like he's focusing just on China. There's some major structural inequities. Like, at the end of the day, this is essentially, if what Trump is trying to do is suck a lot of manufacturing back into America, and that will be pro-worker, that will be pro-middle class. The reason the American middle class has been hollowed out so bad is because, Richard Nixon in the 70s went to China and he opened up China, and so many jobs were offshored. And that's why the Rust Belt is now the Rust Belt. And now you've got all these, millions of people who 30 years ago with a high school education working at the local factory could afford a middle-class lifestyle. They have nothing now, and people
only one family member had to work. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
how
in the 60s there was a 90% tax on people that made over $1 million. So if you made, they would only tax on the money that went over $1 million. They didn't tax the entire
anything.
$1 million.
Really, that's interesting.
No, anything past that $1 million was 90%. Okay. Everything else was like the tax across the board like everybody else. And that's what people misunderstood how that worked. And it worked because you had a write-off system where if billionaires invested in Ford and made investments, whatever, they were able to actually, get that money back on a huge return, off of write-offs. But something happened in the 70s where billionaires were like, it's my money, why should I give them 90%? And they were finding ways to to circumvent
as Nico said,
that.
the billionaires are always gonna win, right? I think the best we can hope for is some sort of restraint on some of the things. I actually like that system. Now I'd have to see more about it, but I like very low tax, 5% on everything up to $1 million. Anything
like
over $1 million,
I would just like a flat tax, like Nico
heavily
said.
taxed, but with the ability to really offset it if you're investing your money back into companies, because that's what allows America to grow.
But that's why you were able to have one person support the household. Now today, how many people in America that both parents work, right? That both parents have to work to support. Like
the problem is not taxing is never the solution. Taxing is never the solution.
Nope. Sometimes it can make sense.
Never. No.
You're historically wrong, Nico.
No, but you guys are talking about, this is not, again, this is not a rabbit hole I want to go down to because this is going to take hours to explain. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, taxing people because they make more money than you is never the solution.
Well, it's a
It
valid
never,
argument
never,
for sure.
it never
That's
is.
an,
That's
an
my
opinion, though. Like it's valid
you're
opinion, but
no,
it's,
no, but that's not just an opinion. This is what free trade was all about, is to be able to give people the opportunity to do what they do. Because let's be honest here, the average person that makes more money has a tendency to have worked harder to get there. Do they have advantages? It's possible. It's possible that they have different advantages than others. But the point is that
Worked harder.
in a system where it's free market, you
Mhm.
should have the, and when I say free market, I'm not talking about like the Chinese versus the US. I'm talking within the same country. Like, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. If you have a system that is based on work slash reward, you're always going to have a small group of people that make a lot of money. And that is not just about money. Music is the same. Like, there's some examples that are being used from classical music from hundreds of years ago. Mozart and Bach are basically the only name that you hear. Yet there was thousands of composer that were great too. So the point is, as soon as you have that, you're always going to have people that are going to perform better than the others. But saying that you need to tax the top that already pay taxes. So if you have a flat tax, that's one thing. I can agree with a flat tax to say everybody's paying whatever, 10% of tax. That's what it is. That I can agree with because it's fair
Yes.
for everybody, no matter how much money you're making. I don't
Yeah.
like when there's different brackets for different people. Like my old job, I made few $100,000 a year, but I worked a lot more than the average person. Like I was not working a fucking 40-hour job and
No,
I
you
clocked
put in a
out. No,
lot of
no,
work.
I was always available. It did not matter when it was. If my clients called, I fucking picked up the phone. But I also started as a guy that quit high school when I was 15 years old. So I did not start from a place of advantage. Like I quit a long fucking time ago and I went back later on in life. So the point is, I worked harder than most people. And I got to a point, even if I compare to the people that were doing the same job as me, we didn't have the same background at all. But yet in Canada, I was paying more than 50% taxes when I don't even have children. I didn't take care of any of the social services. So this is the thing, right? You got to be extremely fucking careful when it comes to tax
I
because
get
it's
on board with a
easy
flat
to go.
tax.
See, a flat tax to me makes sense. I don't give a fuck if, let's say it's 10%. Cool, 10%.
I
Put it on
support a
everybody.
flat tax.
I see.
I
To me,
just
that's
want, I just
probably
want
the
people
best
to pay,
solution.
Nico, I just want people to pay their fair share, right? Like, I'm not saying tax billionaires significantly more than poor people, but you got some of these jobs where this
Close
fucking
a lot of those
CEO is paying
loopholes.
less taxes than his secretary.
Yeah.
You got positions in New York where the person's secretary or the receptionist working for him is paying more in federal and state tax than that guy. That's why flat tax would be.
Yeah.
That's
Be easier. Close all the
that's a
loopholes.
dream.
Flat tax. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
Unfortunately, you guys are talking about something that this is why I don't like politicians from the left and the
Pipe
right,
dream,
because those
yeah.
are problems. No, but it's not that. Is that the type of problem that you guys are talking about or have nothing to do with party? They all don't want to close the loopholes. I don't give a
Yes, that's
fuck who
right.
they represent.
That's right.
It works for them. Like, as much as I make fun of Democrats, there's as many Republicans that got rich by being in office and playing the fucking system and taking advantage of inside trader. This is not a Democrat thing.
Crenshaw.
It's a fucking politician
Crenshaw.
thing. But
The
all
guy
of
with the
them,
eye patch, Dan
Yeah.
I know.
Crenshaw.
Why is he super rich?
well, he's
No,
not super,
well,
he's
he's
not
rich,
Nancy
but he's the
Pelosi
biggest
rich.
proponent.
But
Yeah.
it,
But him and Nancy
but the
Pelosi,
point,
they're
it just doesn't. What I'm saying is that it doesn't matter. It's a non-political problem
Yeah.
that will never get addressed because it would just expose the fact that they all party together behind closed doors when we're not around.
Yeah.
Let's agree here. They're part of a club that we're not part of. That's the point.
that's a great way to cap this discussion.
No, it's just I want to cap it because it's a long fucking discussion that we can go for hours on. But at the same time, there's we should definitely cover Canadian election because that's
Canadian
what's
elections, yeah.
left. But you're right. I'm just looking on X and there's a post. Fucking Trump. I love how he posts about things like you talked about on fucking Truth Social. Like he explains to his American people off a fucking social media platform. Who does that? Who fucking does that outside of Trump? It's fucking, it's no union address, right? No. I'm fucking doing this shit on my cell phone as I'm going somewhere, bitches. That's such a baller move at the same time. Love it or hate it, it's so baller to be able to do that. But
well, in
he's saying
2008, it was harder to
75%.
do that, right?
Yeah, but 75 countries
Right.
have been, more than 75 countries have called them for the tariffs, which, like I said at the beginning, that's a baller move right there. Just saying that you're going to put tariffs, and now he's putting a 90-day pause, even though that on Monday he said that was fake news. So negotiation 101 from the get-go, and he's going to be tapping himself on the back. If he can get China to back down, but like you said, Rob, if he can put it in a situation where China doesn't lose face and the U.S. looks like they're
you have
winning,
to give him something.
just to say, you know what, we'll give you a year. We'll give you 2 years.
Yeah.
And as I said in the beginning of this, we're the only one getting tariffs. I mean, what's up with that, right?
Yeah.
Why were, I mean, before this even hit news, we were getting tariffed to death by everybody.
I'd like to. I
That's
think.
a great point, though. The fact that you did not know that as an American, Trump also won on certain aspect, and that goes back to Warren Buffett saying that your president should be an educator. If that is the only thing that comes out of this tariff war, that we go back to the exact same world, the average American now knows that most countries in the world tariff them, which is something they did not know a week ago or 2 weeks ago, right? This is the thing. So no matter what, you have to admit that he did something right. And yeah, he has something to tap himself in the back, and God knows he will.
Well,
Like, what?
yeah,
All agree
you know
with
he
that,
will.
that, whoa, I did something right.
So I'm just gonna go over some of the highlights here that I see. So it says Trump announces 90-day tariff pause for at least some countries. So he's raising tariffs on China to 125% effective immediately. But this I thought was really interesting. So Trump in a social media post also said that he substantially lowered reciprocal tariffs during this period of 10% effective immediately. So I take that to understand everyone but China, it's just down to 10%, which is essentially where, like you said, it was 7.5% or something.
Yep.
So it sounds like it's almost just a tariff for tariff with every other country. And it says here, Trump's Truth Social post credited his decision to pause the full effects of tariffs on the fact that more than 75 countries have contacted U.S. officials to negotiate a solution. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty, again, it's still too early to take a victory lap, but I might be stretching if I were him. I might be warming myself up.
By the way, the tie he's wearing, Trump ties,
yeah,
manufactured in China.
Of
Let's
course,
move on.
of course they are. Of course they are.
There was a great post of the MAGA hat.
Those are called Trump ties. They're called Trump. No, he was on a talk show. They're called Trump ties, and it was Letterman, and he took the tie off, and Letterman looked at the tie, and the tie says, "You know, this says Made in China," and everyone in the crowd started laughing.
That's hilarious.
He has a bunch of ties called Trump ties that are made in China.
Wow,
There you have it.
I mean,
it's like rain, baby. See, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
but yeah, I really like the strategy of sort of bringing your allies closer together and everyone going after China, because I think that's probably the best way to do it. The way he was doing it really left a large opening for China to come in between America and her allies, and I think this prevents a lot of that. And I think from now, I'd like to see him allow Xi to have a face-saving exit, but something that will definitely benefit America in the long run. So if he's able to do that, there isn't a whole lot that his haters will be able to say against him, because it's not an unambiguous win just yet, but it looks like it's starting to head that way.
I just want Canada to look at this and understand how we're not doing the right thing right now. Because as of this morning, they were talking about raising their tariffs on the US just like China did. That's what Canada wanted to do. And this is not right. It's absolutely not right that we're choosing China over our biggest ally because we don't like the president. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. We all know, I think we can all agree that if, I found this because you kept on talking about it, but you never showed the picture, but see this? And Canada's way at the bottom.
I saw this today. Yeah.
Yeah, this is how bad we've become, and this is not happening because of Trump. That's been happening over the past fucking 10 years because of the liberal leadership that we've had. So let's stop blaming the US.
Who's the one up top?
That's Ireland.
Ireland
Gotcha.
for some reason. It's probably because of all their DEI policies.
Poland, Turkey, yeah.
But all to say that we're still dropping the ball this morning, aligning with fucking China, saying that we're going to put more tariffs on the US instead of simply picking up the phone and calling the US and say, you know what, guys, maybe we need to make a deal.
Well, yeah, you got to negotiate. You got like Carney's not even trying to negotiate, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
He's running his whole fucking platform, his whole campaign is going to war with the US.
Yeah, he wants
100%
for political reasons, and that's
there's nothing
reason.
else. What else does he have? He's not running on anything else, so
he certainly can't run on the the liberal economy because I'm actually like Polyev should be hammering that a lot harder than he should. He should be showing that chart you just showed. He should blow it up and bring every rally that he goes to. But
that's why I'm saying, man, I've
always
have
that killer instinct.
No, I think it's more than that. I think he's more intelligent than I give him credit for, but at the same time, I think he's controlled opposition. I don't think that it was ever his job was to get Trudeau out, and I don't think that it was to beat Carney. As much as I hope Pierre Poilievre wins over Carney, I don't know. Like, I just don't understand the mentality. Who are the people telling him what to talk about? Because I could do a way better job than he does.
Yeah.
Whoever his consultant is, bro, give me a call. I'll fucking show you how to win Canada. Because what you're doing ain't fucking working. You're only winning because you're literally running against a retard. Like you ran against nice hair. That's it. Like, it's like, did Trump really have that great of a battle with Kamala Harris? Like, was she really that much of a threat at the end? No, because all you had to do is let her talk. Let her talk, and she killed herself.
Well, the polls looked neck and neck, but as the results showed,
the beginning,
it wasn't. Even to the end, the polls looked like it was going to be close. But then we saw the actual election; it was not close.
Every pollster needs to be fired. Every pollster needs to reevaluate how they do polls, and this is why the blame game and the denial is in place. Because if they don't deny, they have to concede that the system and how they're polling is flawed. And to admit that they're flawed in this unforgiving
that's their
society
whole business model, right?
Means they lose their job. So
yeah,
they're I mean, they got it. These guys who claim they get elections right all the time, the people.
I think traditional polling, for whatever reason, is more or less dead in the technological era that we're in. And I don't think that's a partisan thing. It's just habits, consumer habits, and it could like go ahead.
But I'm not talking about extreme partisan people, right? There are people on the left. No, there are people on the left that thought that Harris is going to win Texas. All right, we ain't talking about that person. There's people on the right that were like, "Oh my God, we didn't win New York. If we don't win New York, this election's rigged." Right? So we're not talking about like the extreme ones on both sides. We were talking about basic polling, like the plus or minus 3. And they were so wrong on the popular vote. And Nico and we could have had a podcast election night and predicted that Trump would win 6 of the 7 states, right? And been closer than the polling system was. I actually picked him to win all 7. And you know what? A lot of people say that after the fact, but I had a live thing with a lefty. And he's like, well, Trump's going to win or Kamala's is going to win, but it's not going to be a landslide. I'm like, dude, I think
nowhere close.
It's in my bones. I think it's going to be a landslide because I have a pulse with the people, man. I know what's up.
But I think the same thing's going on in Canada too. I think it's the same fucking thing in Canada. But I don't think that Pierre Poilievre is. Again, I think people are going to be voting against the Liberals, similar to you, Rob, more than voting for Pierre Poilievre. Because that's why I'm saying
if he wins, that's why.
That's why I'm calling him a control opposition, because as much as he could have done so much more damage if he really wanted to, if he was ready to take a stance for something, because I can tell you from behind closed doors, I know quite a few people that are part of his campaign, and I can tell you that he does not want to talk about specific things on purpose because he's cruising right now. I like all he's doing right now. He's just going to continue doing what he's doing.
He's not going to like someone who's behind in the polls, and he is.
He
should be.
Well,
there should be.
But he's not taking any great debate right now. Like, he's not talking about the stuff that we want to hear, similar to what Trump did in the US. Like, he's not taking a stance on something you talk about all the time, that there's only two genders, right? He doesn't have the balls to approach
That's
this
low
one.
hanging fruit.
Oh, man, that would be so fucking easy. Like, his base is already in agreement with this.
Oh yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
this, you're not convincing. It's like he's playing the game trying to convince the 60 plus voters that listen to CBC that he's the right guy to be prime minister. Bro,
Yeah.
that's not barking up that tree. I'm not
Right.
trying to convince the LGBTQ community to follow me on my conservative Christian values.
Mm.
I'm not going to bark up that tree because there's
Yeah.
nothing for me. There's no work for me to be there. Like, I'm not moving the needle, right? This is not my audience.
It seems
or
like
they're
his
not
strategy
interested.
is try to
Very
convince him
interesting.
like I'm a liberal kind of conservative, and yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that that's necessarily the winning
Libertarian? No.
strategy.
No, not even.
Like
He's not even a libertarian.
socially liberal, fiscally conservative.
I think he's trying to go for that, yeah. And the polling doesn't report that that's a great strategy. You know, he had a massive lead a month ago.
All right, I'm talking to two Canadians here. I'll start with you, Rob. What are, if you had to pick two political hard lines where, you know, like we do this lesser of two evils things and we have compromise in our vote because there's no perfect candidate outside of Jesus, right? Right. You're not going to have anyone who is without mar or sin. So, for example, my two political hard lines are free speech and anti-war. Right. And free speech is first, because if you and I disagree, the value of debating the ideas should not be censored. And never in the history of time have the people doing the censoring have ever been the good guys. So what are like two political hard lines? You as a voter, and you lean more left than right, or significantly more, I would suggest, what would be two political hard lines that decide who you vote for?
So I would I'll odds. I think free speech would be one of mine for sure. For my second one, I think fuck. That's a good question. Nico, you want to go first, and I'll come back to me.
Yeah, he's letting it swear in his head. What's yours?
The first two amendments. I will always say that the first two amendments in the U.S. Constitution is the most brilliant fucking piece of legislation ever put into place, because you cannot have free speech without having gun rights. You can. That's why it's brilliant what they did to put them at the basis of everything. How do you get your free speech back if you can't defend yourself, or if you can't overthrow a tyrannical government? So to me, 1 and 2, the U.S. got it right when it said the First and Second Amendment are the most important amendment. This is where I would state my stake, 100%.
Yeah, I think for me, the second one.
Do you have that T-shirt? The Second Amendment in case the First Amendment goes to hell. Do you have that T-shirt?
No,
the Second Amendment in case the First Amendment goes to hell.
But I say it all the time, man.
Go ahead.
It's brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, so, you know, obviously you guys know that I'm pretty big on, you know, as Nico said, you know, I'd like to hear Poilievre talk about, you know, that specifically that there's, you know, only two genders. It's not that I don't want to make it narrow about trans issues. For me, like, that's kind of the nexus point. And that's why I kind of talk about that a lot. For me, it's a bigger picture. It's more about what I see on the left is this move down towards just a reality denial worldview, you know, where I think Orwell said, or not, or George Orwell said, you know, true freedom is the ability is the right to say that 2 + 2 = 4. Everything else follows from that. I just think when you get into a worldview which uses social pressure, shaming, even people losing their jobs, forces people to deny objective reality, to force people to deny the evidence of their eyes and ears, you're going down a really dangerous path it's far bigger than, you know, men and women's bathrooms or men and women's sports. That's just sort of the battleground that it takes in the culture wars today. But it's more, you know, I need to see in my leaders people who are pushing back against this move towards a sort of fantasy-based worldview that I see that's happening on the left. Carney doesn't seem like all that woke as far as liberal left leaders go, but I'm sure until I hear him actually repudiate a lot of these things, I wouldn't feel comfortable voting for a liberal politician, I don't think.
Too much low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean it's a good it's a good question. I think, but I'm right there with it with free speech. I think that needs to be brought on the left. That needs to become, because it used to be a pillar of the left, right? Or at least a long time ago.
Well,
it used to be a core liberal value.
About that. Look, Nico will agree with this. The right to be wrong is an American value. And this is for two reasons. One, because what's wrong today might be right tomorrow. We don't know. And two, we don't trust our government to determine what is right and what is wrong. And this is why you can get in trouble by saying free speech is not popular speech. Popular speech doesn't need protection. Speech that cosigns your values, like Nico's conservative values, right? Two genders, you have free speech, have at it. You know what I'm saying? Protest against Israel. You can't say that, right? No, it has to work. Free speech has to work both ways. Free speech, again, and I'm talking too much because I had it right in the beginning of my little diatribe. Free speech is not popular speech. Popular speech doesn't need protection.
That's right.
But I don't think you can have the First Amendment without having the second, because it's too easy to lose the first if you don't have the second. And Prairie is saying, and we don't have anything like the Second Amendment, so you can't even compare. The question was, what do I vote for? What are the two things that my candidate would need to have? And it's the First and Second Amendment. This is a high political. This is just we're hoping for something. I don't claim that this exists in Canada. Don't get me wrong here, because it doesn't. It clearly doesn't. But at the same time, that's what I would vote for.
From your
well, free speech cannot go without the second. This is why the American Constitution is so brilliant. They recognize that without the Second Amendment, how many times have I explained this to people? The First Amendment is preventing the government cannot censor you. And if they start doing it, you have the Second Amendment to get it back. That's the Constitution in the U.S. It's brilliant. It's absolutely
Rob. He's
brilliant.
excited just talking about it. Rob, look at him.
I was actually just watching the markets as Nico's speaking.
It's just, but that's why I can't vote for anybody in Canada. This is why I cannot, with my conscience as a Christian, I cannot vote for somebody in Canada, because nobody supports that. Nobody supports it the way I talk about it, and it bothers me. It really, really fucking bothers me, because I'm talking into a void. Even if I talk about this is why my values align more with Americans.
Who agree with you.
Yeah, but it's but it's small. You're not gonna win an election on free speech and gun rights. Right?
Oh yes, you can. Not in Canada.
Not in Canada. No. In the US, bro, if you're not winning with this, your Americans are fucking sleeping. But as a Canadian, I'm not winning an election with those two, because they're not left enough. They consider too much right when they shouldn't be.
You won't get a voter turnout for that?
You're not going to move the needle, as I always say. Like, those are the type of things that you look at. Even a guy like Poliev right now, which as a conservative should be more pro guns, but I don't remember last time he spoke against. I don't think he spoke for gun rights since he's been campaigning to become PM. Like, over the past couple of weeks, it's not a problem that he's approaching. Yet every single person out there, like the NRA, the equivalent of the NRA in Quebec, in Canada, there's two organizations. They're massive fans of Poliev. I always see them like his posts, reshare his posts, and I'm like, why are you guys supporting him when he doesn't talk about those things? So they're
politics.
Poliev right now is winning because people don't want the Liberal Party, not because he's that great of a leader. End of it.
Prairie says Carney's daughter attended Tavistock, not woke. Well, correct. I mean, clearly he is. I just mean relatively so. He's not speaking about the way Trudeau would. But as I said,
but
for
he doesn't
me,
need to.
That isn't enough. I would need a Liberal leader to actively repudiate a lot of those what you can call woke ideas for me to be interested. And I don't see Carney doing that at all. He probably won't. That's why I think the Liberals need to lose. More importantly, as Nico said, if I vote for Poliev, which it's looking more likely, it would really be a vote against the Liberal Party and what they're becoming, what they stand for. I think they
Because
need to
even
have a
Polyev doesn't talk about it. Like
No.
even Polyev doesn't have the balls to talk about the issues you talk about as a liberal.
yeah.
And this
it's
is
true.
kind of my point, right? I look at Polyev and I'm like, you're such a coward. You don't
Yeah.
even have the balls. And that's a conversation I've had with people behind the scene that work on his campaign, because they're like, hey, Nico, you need to stop talking against Polyev and just do it after the election. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm
Wrong.
like, no,
Wrong.
wrong. Like, I'm
Wrong.
going to talk against everybody that I don't agree with. I really don't give a fuck if people don't like it or not. It's not about
What's
you.
the point in
It's
doing
not-
it after
not
the election?
But that's my point. Like,
Yeah, well, I
do-
think they're just saying that it'll hurt Polyev now. But you know,
But-
if you have your principles, you got your principles.
bro, I don't report to Polyev. I report to Jesus Christ up there, and I have to be able to explain myself one day.
Yeah.
And if my heart's
Well-
telling me that he's wrong, that Polyev's wrong, and he's not a good leader, there's something
Ni-
fishy about him, I'm not going to give him my vote, plain and simple.
Nico, elections are won and lost all the time. All right. This is just one chapter in the many chapters of our lives. But your values, and when you want to look back retrospectively and ask yourself, did I get that right, or as right as you could, right? Because voting is about getting bang for your buck. You're not
Mhm.
looking for the perfect candidate. The perfect candidate doesn't exist. 2024, I voted for Jill Stein. She wasn't gonna win. She's the weakest fucking candidate out of all of them. She's promoting the environment. She's promoting world peace, education. The weakest platform to run on. That's the platform you could do twice the work and wind up with half the votes. But if my political hard stops are free speech and anti-war, and she's the one that most identifies with that.
Yeah.
I knew that I had to do that, and she's a very smart person, Harvard educated doctor, but did I agree with her stances on COVID? No, they were virtually they were draconian for someone that's supposed to be a Green Party person. Sorry, go ahead.
What do you want?
Let me just address this, Prairie. CCFR, which is, I think they are considered the biggest organization for pro-gun in Canada, goes to bat against the government for our gun rights. And I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. But at the same time, they're supporting Pierre Poilievre. They're not supporting another candidate. Or it could be Maxime Bernier. Maxime Bernier, we have to agree here, Maxime Bernier is more pro-gun than Poilievre is. Like, I don't think anybody can argue this. At least what he's showing on camera, Maxime Bernier is more pro-gun than Poilievre. So why is the CCFR not backing publicly Maxime Bernier? Because they're not voting for Poilievre. They're voting against the Liberal Party. Pierre Poilievre is not. So that's, and I think Prairie agrees with me. And that's my point. I'm not saying that they're wrong, because again, they're voting for the lesser of two evil. I just can't do it. I personally cannot do it as a voter. I can't do it. I cannot do it. That's it.
And there's a
They can
chance
do whatever the fuck you want,
might not even. But even if you compromise, like, you have to have this good faith belief that what you would get out of it would happen after the election. And if you don't believe that, that's even less of a reason to do that, right? And pro-gun is such a weird term, right? Like give everyone a gun. No, pro-gun means choose to have a gun or not. That's like saying I'm pro-abortion. I don't think everybody should have an abortion. I'm just saying, let someone have the choice.
I'm pro-gun because I believe in the First Amendment. If you break it down,
but pro-gun
to what
means
is,
like everyone should have a gun. I think people should choose to have a gun or not have a gun.
But that's what people believe. But I'm pro-gun because I'm pro-speech, and you cannot have one without the other. That's why I'm pro-gun, because I never explained it this way, so I appreciate
I'm tickled by that because I support that. In case
I'm tickling you while you're funneling my balls.
Second Amendment. I'll tell you what. We could do a racism test in the United States. Let's give NRA memberships to 500,000 black men and see if the Second Amendment still exists. Because the only time, the two times the United States the Second Amendment has been challenged was the formation of the Black Panthers, who exercise their constitutional right to resist government oppression, right? And by the way, they never even pulled the trigger on anyone. They just having a black man with a gun on a corner was scary enough for some of these white motherfuckers. And it reared its ugly head again with the KKK protests or the neo-Nazi protests when this community that was all black but also Vietnam vets and Gulf War vets decided to arm themselves and take their kids to school and take their people shopping until these crazy motherfuckers moved. And it only made news when black people armed themselves. I'm not trying to make this podcast racial, but it just gives me the giggles. And it's only scary when you see.
Well, I mean, it's got to apply to everybody, right? Second Amendment has to apply to everybody for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
no, but Canada might be different. Canada, I'm not talking about Canada. I'm talking about it only makes the news when you see a black person arm themselves.
Yeah, I mean that's media.
Yeah, the
Um,
Panthers. Yeah.
Should we dig into a few minutes in the Canadian election? Do we have time for that?
Yeah. I missed your
can-
Val Kilmer thing. I got to go back and watch that if you did that last week.
I watched Tombstone last night. Great movie.
Yeah, go check.
I'm your Huckleberry.
I had a couple of videos I wanted to show, but there's one that showed up during the recording from Mark Carney. He's because now I guess the tariffs are going to be something of the past, so he's going to have to actually run a real campaign now. But he's just talking about energy policy, which this is one of the differences between Poliev and Mark Carney. So I don't know if you want to see this one. I haven't listened to it yet, but people were commenting and saying that, well, look at Carney talking about energy. He wants to be zero. He's still pushing that climate change crap to be net zero by 2050. So let's see what he says. I haven't listened to it yet, but it's trending
Today,
right now.
I'm announcing a comprehensive new approach to make Canada the world's leading energy superpower. We need to develop both clean energy and the lowest carbon conventional energy. We need to get more clean energy built. And our system of investment tax credits are promoting a generational investment in clean energy. They're an investment in making oil and gas as well, making oil and gas the lowest emission and therefore the most competitive in the world. They will unlock more solar, more wind, more nuclear, both large scale and small modular.
Nuclear.
More geothermal, more hydrogen.
I get
more
behind that.
I agree with that.
Fuels.
Yep.
To be an energy superpower, we also need to get more conventional energy built.
Oh, there you
with
go.
a focus on making it as clean as possible, because we can't lose sight of our responsibility to address climate change. And we can't lose sight of the imperative to ensure the long-term competitiveness of our conventional energy sector. And that starts with recognizing the facts. As the world shifts to using lower carbon energy, increasingly only the cleanest oil and gas will be consumed. Our oil and gas industry recognizes this.
Guys, have you seen? I'm just pausing it for a second. Look without sound. Just look at the background. Look at the people. Like people did exactly like us. They're like, hey, that's actually pretty clever. And then around here, he starts talking about climate change. Look at the people. They're like, what the? Like the guys are like, what the fuck are you saying here? Like look at all of them. They're like, yeah, I don't know about that, bro. He had me like up to the climate change part. I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? I don't agree, but I don't disagree with you. Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I think it's fine to talk, to sort of mention it. It just seems a bit silly for the Canadian, Prime Minister to like make that the most important factor in our energy policy, just by pure numbers. What do we have? Like less than 1% of total global emissions? Like
liberals are saying 1%, which with the amount of trees that we have, it's incorrect. It
doesn't even factor that in.
But let's say it's 1% for the second biggest country on the planet. 1%.
Yeah, so it's just not going to actually do anything. So the point of it is just virtue signaling, and I don't want to see virtue signaling in something as important as energy policy. Like I'm much more concerned with like clean and like protecting the environment, right? Like making sure you're not just fucking contaminating massive like lakes and water supplies that people are using to drink. than the actual CO2 output, just based on the size of our economy and what we can actually do. We can't actually make a difference in any sort of global emissions. So yeah, I didn't particularly like that part, but yeah, I like how he's talking about nuclear and stuff. I think that's pretty cool.
Yep. Nuclear, geothermal. I was surprised he actually mentioned both of them, because as a conversation
Iran's
we had
energy.
with what's that?
That's Iran's energy. It's nuclear.
It's clean as fuck, eh? When you know what you're doing, especially with the new, like Judith Curie was talking about that on our podcast with her, geothermal, nuclear, oil and gas where it makes sense. We have a lot of hydroelectricity in Canada too, so we have no reasons of not being a superpower, but it shouldn't be based on our carbon footprint. That's the problem. That's the bullshit. You shouldn't have to be. We're already net zero, so don't give me this shit of we need to do more for the rest of the world. Let the rest of the world deal with their bullshit. China being responsible for like 36% of the world emission. Fuck you. How about they start dealing with it, right? If it matters that much, put sanctions on China saying we're not going to buy anything that comes from their country unless they're carbon zero by 2030.
On that note, I've got a really that's a perfect segue here for watch this. So this is Carney talking about let me get the volume up.
We have to listen to him again. I'm just kidding.
Particularly around China, China's leadership in climate change and the further acceleration that necessary.
Praising China's leadership in climate change.
Crucial discussion, as is the discussion around AI and really the application.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny. How he's praising China's leadership on climate change, meanwhile lecturing Canadians for how we have to make sure that we're carbon neutral and net zero by 2025, even though it won't actually make a difference. Like, what is the fucking point if it's not going to make a difference? If it would make a difference, then maybe you can talk about it. But
tax, maybe a bit more taxes.
Yeah. Well,
I want to take some comments before we drop it there, unless you wanted to add more to that.
No, I had a bunch of videos too, but I'll play one more. There was one that I did want to play, and then we'll take those comments and probably wrap that up here. Let me just. This is about. I won't play this video. Well, there's a couple videos, but one of the ones I'm not going to play, I'll just briefly describe. Did you hear the part how he said he wants to spend like $30 billion in modular housing? Increasing and I thought, okay, cool, because obviously housing affordability is a major issue here in Canada, and $25 billion to build new homes would be a big thing. But then I read that the hedge fund that he owns or did own,
of course he does,
Brookfield, just made a massive investment in a modular housing company here. So I'm like, I don't know, man. The guy just it seems
you know that building housing and affordable housing are separate entities, right?
Of course,
yes,
you
for sure.
But right, we're going to build a whole bunch of houses, but you're not going to be able to afford them. What's the point in building them?
I agree with you. There is a lot more to it.
What's going on in Canada? But America,
demand.
we have more empty houses than homeless.
Bullshit about this morning, and it's always the same bullshit when it comes to Carney. Like he wants to build 500,000 houses. Okay, cool. How about you stop trying to immigrate? Like he wants to build 500,000 houses and bring in 70+ million immigrants until 2100. So 75 years. So basically, how about you close the door, you pause immigration, and you assess how many houses Canadians actually need. Plus, I don't want the government to be responsible for building houses, because when's the last time the government's done something properly compared to the private sector? So fuck you. I don't want the government to be able to tell me, not only are we taking your tax money, pay your tax money to actually build houses that are going to be built 3 times slower. They're going to be 3 times more expensive because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And then they're going to get to control who they give their houses to, and then control the market by the amount of houses that they release on the market. Hey, fuck you. Less government. I want less government, smaller government, less fucking interference. Plain and simple. Is that what you're going to talk about?
this is a video I'm going to play whenever you're done there, and
No,
that'll
go
be
for
it for.
Go for
Okay, so this is if you remember yesterday we discussed how it turns out that the Chinese Communist Party has been running some sort of influence campaign, supporting Carney, and they're asking Carney why that might be. Now there are some, so this is his answer.
I don't know.
That's essentially it.
The campaign was pushing positive narratives about you. Why do you think that China, the PRC, seems to like you? Why are they praising you?
I have absolutely no idea, and I have absolutely no idea, and I think I'll leave it at that.
Good for him. Good for
I
him.
have no idea.
China likes
Good
you.
for
What does
him.
that even mean? Are they talking about the Chinese government? Are they talking about these Chinese guys, 30 Chinese guys behind tech stuff? They
No,
weren't
the Chinese
specific.
Communist Party.
No, it's
Who?
because
they can't name a name though, right?
No, but
That's
they've been
propaganda bullshit.
no, but it's not. There's a lot of people in this party, even and not two actual people that are running for his party right now. Yeah, there's two people running for his party right now. One left and got replaced by another one, but they're basically supporting the CCP. Like they believe like they're no, but I can't say,
but can't say Xi Jinping. They can't say
No,
that,
but
right?
you're-
It's the same thing
you're
what happened with
talking
Trump,
about-
with Russian interference,
No, but-
right? Was
But
it
you're talking
Putin?
about a 10 no, but it's a 10-second clip. The point in the matter is that in Canada, and you might not know this, but
Right.
ever since Trudeau took power over the past 10 years, it's been one after the other. Like the conservative have been going against the liberals, saying, why is that old spy working for your government? Why is that person married to a actual communist that still works for the government over there? They've been attacked left and right and center with actual names. So maybe to you that video doesn't seem like
Without
precise
names, it's
enough and
red
obvious.
meat.
No, but it's always been with names. Like they've been dropping the names for years in Canada. We fully accept the fact that the Chinese government has infiltrated our government. It's not even a fucking
There's
question
a lot of
anymore, which is
concern.
why it's funny to see him just say, I'm not going to address it. Yet you just showed a video showing that he actually praises China for their climate change initiative. Like, brother,
What is
like
this?
right
Is
then
this
and there,
junior high
you should have
school?
shown.
What are we? Come on.
So
ahead, Nico.
there is a lot of concern in Canadian politics in general that the influence that China has within Canadian society and our politics. Now that being said, I'm not blaming Carney for that. It's not his fault who supports him or why. But I think it's relevant if you are concerned about Chinese influence, especially on the West Coast, like in Vancouver. There's a ton of Chinese money that's flown into the Vancouver real estate market. A lot of these people,
Toronto.
yeah, and Toronto too as well. And there's a lot of sovereignty issues. China has set up secret police stations within Canada, and they have been known and already caught of grabbing dual Canadian Chinese citizens and dragging them there, and then they get disappeared. Like it's a real concern. Yeah, but they're doing things in Canada that
We had a guy.
they don't do in
literally
America
had
for sure.
a candidate outside of Toronto that told a liberal candidate, he's the MP, sitting MP right now, that told his supporters to go and report his conservative counterpart, which is Chinese as well. They're both Chinese origin. And they're like, bring them to the Chinese consulate and take that $100,000 bounty that's on his head because he keeps on talking against the Chinese government. So this happened like 3 weeks ago, and Carney defended him, saying, no, I have no problems with him. It's fine. He apologized.
Now, yeah, exactly.
This is the thing, is when you're seeing those things, you're like, bro, you have the perfect opportunity to say, I do not condone this. This is wrong. You need to step down. No matter what, if you were smart and even if you like the guy, that's damage control 101. Just replace him right away.
The question caught him in left field with this general assertion. You guys are talking about things that I guess there's actually hard evidence instead of some piece of paper saying that this happened, right? Right, like Bernie Sanders got in trouble for praising Castro's health system, right? Was on all of a sudden was like, oh, he praises Cuba, therefore he praises communism. So we got to be careful.
But we
Not
agree.
you. I mean,
I
you
hear
got,
you. I hear
Nico,
you.
you're an
But
evidence-based guy, so I'm preaching
we're
and
totally
comparing.
agree.
This
The only
is-
thing
all right,
is
I'll
that
stop. No, if you guys know what I'm
you-
saying, I'll stop.
No. But all that I liked about this video is that once again, Carney is easy to take off of his game. Because then again, he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna address this one. You know what? That's his right, but you look like a fucking idiot. Because it's not the first time he did that. Like a couple of weeks ago, two female reporters went at him, and man, they went at him and they were right to go at him. He looked at one of the two, closed the discussion by saying, you should look within yourself.
Look within
Instead
yourself.
of fucking answering the question, he got frustrated and basically implied
Scolded
that
her.
she should be asking those questions because it's a
Yeah.
problem with you. If you really
How
want to
about
know,
answer the damn
it's your
question,
fault.
right?
But
Yeah.
that's what this video is showing is he's very easy to take off guard. Like you ask him not that hard of a question, and even if it's very high level like this, I'm gonna skip this question. Like, bro, come on.
But yeah, Jason, to what you're saying, like it's not quite the same as the Bernie Sanders thing. Like it's not about ideological purity, or saying like, oh, you like something about China. It's more like actual real influence that China is. I don't think there's any doubt that they're trying to gain
based on
influence
on actual evidence.
Yeah. No, it's a general consensus here in Canada among everybody, all parties. Like he didn't he would have denied it. He would have said like, no, I reject your question entirely. It's not correct. They don't prefer me. He accepted the premise. And I don't think that Carney's working secretly for China. I don't think he's like a secret agent. I'm not questioning his loyalty per se. I just my point in bringing it up is if you're concerned about Chinese influence in Canadian society, you might want to at least be aware of where Beijing's preferences are in sort of, like I said, I don't think he's a double agent or anything like that. But if anything, it's probably something like they just feel he'll be easier to deal with in order to get their agenda. China very clearly has an agenda. They are executing on a plan, and they have been for 20, 30 years.
But he might be.
Go ahead.
He might be going on through a similar thing Trump's going through, right? Like, there are a lot of neo-Nazis.
Like the Russia thing. I agree with you.
There are a lot of neo-Nazis that like Trump, and Trump is like, so what you're trying to say, someone that we don't like likes me, so that makes me complicit. That's bullshit, right? Like Jill Stein, David Duke endorsed her, right? I'm like, does she have to come to the front line every time someone that everyone doesn't like likes them? Or I mean, are we fucking 12 here? Now, Nico was actually talking about a legit journalist question. She asked a straight question and wanted a straight answer. That's different, right? And I have to believe that journalists in Canada are not going to ask a question unless there's a good faith belief that, like you said, there's a buzz about Chinese,
and they're leftists.
Yeah.
On top of that, they're not the equivalent of a Fox News trying to trap Biden.
No.
They're leftists asking another
Yeah.
leftist a question that he won't answer. The only reason I like that video is simply because he does not react well to unplanned questions. And this is the same gripe I have with Pierre Poilievre, his opponent. Both of them are not very witty. Both of them are very easy to trap into a question that's not even complicated, that you should, even if you don't want to he could have simply said, I really don't know why they prefer me over another. But the fact that he had to hesitate 5 times before he answered the question, right then and there shows you that he's not really that witty. And that's what bothers me. You're a leader. You should be.
Yeah.
Shit's gonna happen, bro. You better be able to answer those fucking questions. That's your fucking job. Answer fucking questions right now. So
should we take a couple of these questions and then we'll
then we'll call it a day. Yeah.
Call it a day.
Go for
Yeah.
it, man.
All right. Some prairie. You already talked about the CCFR and gun rights.
Yeah.
All right. So Tony G says this clown is just parroting Poilievre. Liberals are just brainless, coming up with some of your own ideas and scrap wind and solar. Everyone with the brain knows they don't work in Canada. Certainly, we're too far north for solar to be super effective. And I think there's also a lot of actual environmental concerns with solar. in terms of, I think, a lot of the how long do they last? 20, 25 years. And I think there's a lot of like heavy metals get leached in the sites and stuff. I'm not necessarily anti-solar, but it's not going to be, as I think there's probably a role for it as a complement to, but it can't be the centerpiece of your.
There's storage concerns too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. It can't be the centerpiece of your energy.
Yeah. Like Elon Musk said 100 square feet of solar panels can power the entire United States, but they need.
You need the battery technology behind it to store that.
Yeah.
But the thing what is common though that I find interesting, because this is something I hear all the time, and Maxime Bernier's talk about this. This clown's just parroting Pierre Poilievre. This is exactly what happens when you're not a real conservative and you're a leftist in hiding. A leftist can just show up and steal all of your ideas because they're not conservative ideas. Whose fault is that? Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre for being too much of a liberal? Pierre Poilievre's to blame for this. So if he was a real conservative, he couldn't steal his ideas, but he's not a conservative. So if you're competing a leftist against a leftist, guess what? They're going to steal each other's fucking ideas because they represent the same side.
Yeah.
Like that's why if you don't see Democrats trying to steal Republicans' ideas, they're going to do everything they can to say that it was wrong, even if it's right, because there is a split down the middle to say we can't agree with those. But in Canada, unfortunately, our conservatives are just liberal in hiding. Well, I'm talking about the party, the capital C, not the small c.
Well, things down the middle, they'll disguise as their own, right? Like Trump talked about tax on tips. Kamala's like, we're not going to do tax on tips. We're going to do no tax on tips, or like Mitch McConnell. I don't like that Obamacare. I like this plan we have in Kentucky. It's called this.
The Affordable Care Act.
Kentucky was Obamacare under a different name.
Yeah.
So
So, but that's the thing.
Those
Those are always the thing that don't stick, because anybody can take them and make them their own. Unfortunately, in Canada, most of the things that they're pushing right now is all that middle stuff that doesn't really differentiate you from the other party. Because right now, there's not a lot that differentiate Pierre Poilievre of Mark Carney outside that he's not a liberal.
What's a Yahtzee?
By party.
I think that's
Nazi.
not
Is that not the gay?
No,
yes.
Prairie had a comment like all 103, all
yeah,
and not Yahtzee in Parliament.
That's the guy that came in with Zelensky. That came in on the same day as Zelensky. Everybody's like, bravo, bravo, what a great man.
Yeah.
Yet he was a Nazi. Yeah.
Hey, I'll take it from here. This is where you should have fucking known better.
Yep.
They said he fought the Russians in World War II.
In World War II.
He bravely fought in
World
War II against the Russians. And Russia was our ally. And if Russia was our ally, that makes him, say it with me.
A Yahtzee.
It was Canada's worst moment, dude. I was like,
but the point that she's
dumbest motherfuckers on the face of the earth.
But the point is that her point, and I'm hoping that's what she's trying to say, the left and the right applauded. Everybody was standing up. It wasn't the liberals are standing up. Bravo, bravo. No. The conservative and the liberals are all fucking idiots. It's like, oh, beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. He fought the Russian. What a great man.
we don't like the Russian.
Wait, what?
Nico,
what?
Do you know how you clap when your wife says she actually knows what she wants for dinner?
Oh,
that was that clap. Kind of clap from the Canadian
clap, like
yes.
Like Drake, like
oh yeah. It's not a. It's a fucking.
No. When your wife knows what she wants for dinner and says it first.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's a great day. Tony G says yes. Every tax-paying Canadian should no longer foot the bill for Asia or the rest of the world one more day. Not quite sure. Is that about the tariffs?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was definitely about the tariff.
Prairie says absolutely. China has infiltrated Canadian government. We do.
It's hard. even
Chinese
if you look at
safety too.
if you look at the US, there was a book, I have it somewhere, I haven't read it yet, but it talks about how even China has infiltrated the American government and changing policies to favor the US, to favor China, sorry, over the US, right? It's not, no, but it's an ideology. Just look at Hollywood, how Hollywood actually changed the way they make movies in order to be able to have their movies shown in China. And this is not a conspiracy.
Yeah,
Like, you can
that's
look,
true.
I've spoken to directors, and they explain that this is what's going on. They will censor certain things that they're not going to talk against. Like, look at TikTok. I posted a video this morning that's meant for TikTok, but I can't post it on TikTok because I'm talking against China on the tariffs. I fully know that if I put that on TikTok, I'll probably lose my account again. So,
Yeah.
you know, like, so
The movie that won Best Documentary about Palestine, you can't view it in the United States.
Really?
The movie that won an Oscar for Best Documentary, the Palestine one. And the director of the film just got picked up by Israel police. No charges. Not charged. No, there were no charges. It's
That's not good.
no, you
Um,
can't say that on TikTok either. Sorry, I fucked up.
yeah, probably not. We're not
well,
on
yeah,
TikTok
no,
right
But
now.
they won.
I've been banned yesterday, so
and I
not
think
your
that
fault. See, not your
Yeah.
fault. It's not all about you, Jason.
I do think
It
that
is.
there's a lot of, I do think the West has to smarten up a little bit about China. We don't need to look at them as an enemy, but they absolutely are an adversary. I think probably one of the most likely next geopolitical, major dynamic will probably be sort of a new Cold War with the West versus China, more of an economic Cold War than anything. But I believe China is already acting as if they understand that and they are behaving within that dynamic. But in the West, we're not. And I think that's a lot of the stuff going on now with the tariffs, I think, is maybe an attempt to try to reshift that or reframe the whole paradigm again, like in that direction. I just think, China's got they're very sharp. They've got a plan and they are executing on it. And we're just sort of like, going through the motions, just looking at, I think we're really underestimating China. We're just like, oh, they just make our stuff, but we're number one. And, I think
They need us more than we need them.
right now they do. But
Sorry, Rob.
if we allow that, if we don't take measures to protect ourselves, the day will come when they, the final execution of their plan is, I suspect, some version of, oh, it's a new world order. The yuan is now, or the BRICS is now going to be the global reserve currency. And, if we don't have a plan for that, that's going to really fuck our day up.
Only if we need them more than they need us.
Sure.
You know what I'm
But if you
saying?
can look,
Like,
if
they
you can
wanna
look
go
further down
global.
the road 10 years and say, if we don't do something now, that dynamic will shift, and all of a sudden they will have all the leverage and they will hold all the power. Then I think, this wise thing to do is to attempt to change that, or at least it feels like China's playing a great game, and we in the West don't even know that we're in it yet.
But
It's not about it's got lots of battlegrounds. It's tech, it's AI, it's diplomacy, it's soft power, it's economics, and it is even military as well. But I just think in the West we need to sort of wake up, not to demonize the Chinese or anything like that, but we need to respect them more than I think we have been, because they're very smart and they have a plan and they're executing on it very well.
Yep.
And just like
we got one
investment,
too.
they're playing the long game.
Yeah,
That's the big difference.
They
with
are playing
China
the long
too.
game.
When you're under, and that's the book I'm trying to find, I can't find it, but it explains how, because they have a communist country, the person that's in power can stay in power for 20, 30, 40 years. So it's very easy to implement a long-term goal compared to the US, for example. If you're always switching every 4 to 8 years from one party to the other, the same person can't build the same plan over 2, 3, 4 decades. In China, they can. So
There is
this is
some
a big
value
advantage
to a benevolent dictatorship, right?
Well, it makes it easy to play the long game.
Mhm.
And that's what China's been doing since the 80s, since the 70s, since that free trade agreement came into place. And there's a good reason why they produce most of the consumer goods at a cheaper price, because as communists, they're able to. They literally, if you look at China, the communist government is subsidizing everything that is supported, that is created in China, because nothing belongs to private individuals anymore. So everything in one way, shape, or form belongs to the government. They're subsidizing everything to make the production cheap so that they can control the market. So everything, what was it, 37% of the US consumes their thing, like 37%. That's what 36 or 37% of your goods in the US come from China. That's controlling the market. Like that's a third. That's insane when you think about it. So remove the food, remove everything that's perishable. How big is that 30%? Like, because you're talking about 37%, that's a third. Yeah, hold on.
It's huge.
What can
More than
actually what can be produced that China cannot produce for you? Then apply that 30. What does that 30% become, right?
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is, it's not the old Soviet-style communist system, which was an absolute mess. Like they've implemented a lot of capitalist ideas in ways that, like, there is private ownership, but everyone who owns private property or companies, they do so at the pleasure of the Chinese communist government. It's more like a sort of mafia family. Like, as long as you pay fealty to the Godfather and kiss the ring, you will be allowed to have your little
communism
kingdom.
is.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what communism is.
But like, for example, like Jack Ma, the guy who started Alibaba. He's a billionaire, but like he's a lot. He owns that company. Of course, he has to play ball with the Chinese government. They have the power to take it from him. That's why a lot of Chinese money is flowing into Vancouver, because even the Chinese billionaires, they know that as long as they're in China, their status and wealth is always in a precarious position, right? As all they have to do is just disappoint or upset the Xi, and it's gone, right? So a lot of them are Canadian real estate, and just real estate all over the world is a lot of their parachute, their backup plan for if and when those things happen. So,
but this was the case for every single communist elite. There's always an elite part of the communists, whoever the overlords are. It doesn't matter that it was in Russia, China, that it's in Cuba. There's always people that are allowed to do shit that 99.9% of people can't. That's the beauty of communism. If you're at the top, if you're not at the top, communism
in theory, communism tries to make the case that it's a society that has no elites. But the fact of the matter is, elites are built into human nature, right? You can't. Yeah. Whatever system you try to put in, we're going to find a way to have elites. What they call themselves is, of course, might change, but yeah, you can't out ideology, human nature. You can't. It's just we are what we are.
You should leave it at that, because that was pretty clever.
Yeah, I think. Well, fuck, we're 2 hours and 45 minutes. We went certainly a little longer, but excellent show again, guys. For the audience here, again, the show really is built on your engagement. Another strong participation today. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here with us, and we always appreciate that. Yeah. Of course, thank you for Jason. I'm going to throw it to you to add. Actually, if you want, I'll throw it to Nico first, and then Jason can send us off. Like, he's always got some pearl of wisdom for the end of the day. Nico, you got anything to add?
No.
Jason, you want to take us home?
Thank you for everybody being here, man.
Yeah, I'd like to take you guys home by saying I'd like being a contributor in this thing, but today I was more of a consumer. I got an education on how tariffs work, and you guys have done fantastic work on educating the masses on people who know a little bit, and some people know nothing at all. So I feel like today you guys got screwed a little bit. You had someone that was more of a consumer than someone that brought something to the table in that regard. But
no,
I'm an American who has views, so I guess that counts for something. Lastly, I want to recommend this book I was reading. It's called Fight. It's called Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. And it's basically a behind the scenes thing of everything they had to do for Joe Biden to make sure that he can function. They drew lines on the floor where he was supposed to walk with directional arrows.
That's wild,
when he was supposed to take on and off the stage. And I like the book because the two people that wrote it, Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnas, they're Democrat, but they're reporters first. They, like, as far as like calling balls and strikes, like Nico was talking about before, they have a good reputation for being calling balls and strikes. So I recommend this book. I'm in chapter 5 right now, and it reads like a novel, people. But that's all I got.
I'd love to read that.
It's funny that you're talking that Biden needed arrows in order to know where to go, when during COVID, every single store had them for those fucktards that needed to know what direction to go down aisles.
But that was a liquor
conspiracy. Before we make too much fun of Biden here,
yeah,
check the mirror, because I know a lot of people that follow
that was a liquor
arrows down the
conspiracy.
aisles.
No, the stores were a liquor conspiracy. The arrows, you had to go through the liquor section to get to the regular produce. Every store in California, they wouldn't let you go every direction you wanted. You had to go where the wine and beer section was.
But you're missing my point. You're missing my point. In Canada, we had those arrows in basically every single store during COVID, because we had to follow a certain direction to go down aisles. Like, how many times have I been looked at wrong by people? How dare you go down this line? You're going down this line. You had to go around in order to get somewhere.
Can't you see the arrows? Don't you obey the arrows?
So before people
only to find out social distancing was made up, only to find out under oath that they made it up. They put
YouTube.
That's why I said it was a liquor
blah
conspiracy.
blah 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 blah. Jason is not right. Jason's full of shit. YouTube. Blah 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 blah
safe,
blah blah.
effective, safe, effective.
It's very safe, very effective. 6 feet at all times. That is wild, though. That is wild that they made it.
It was made up. They made it under oath. But yeah. But that's all I got, guys. That's all I got.
Yeah. No, great, good show again, guys. Audience, thank you so much. Prairie, as always. Tony G, as always. Cheryl, as always. You guys are the best. And we will catch you tomorrow.